Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. American Comics. The Strongest GU Master Sign In System. Chapter 1. Chen Qing crossed over. Moreover, he crossed over and became a pseudo-rich generation with both parents dead and savings of over 100 million. Chen Qing was very happy after time traveling and figuring out the specific identity of the person he was time traveling. Because not only does he not need to worry about being discovered by the original owner's family that he is not the original product. At the same time, he also has savings that he may not be able to spend in his entire life. This is simply the trip that Chen Qing dreamed of, and he has even figured out how to squander the money. But now Chen Qing is not happy at all. Because, on the TV in front of him, today's news is being broadcast. Tony Stark, head of the Stark Group, is about to visit Afghanistan to participate in a new round of weapons seminars. The Stark military industry is known as the world's. Why do you want me to travel to the Marvel world? Dogs in the Marvel world are not coming. Chen Qing buried herself in the soft and comfortable sofa in despair, and put on a pain mask. Marvel has alien invasions every 3 days. Every once in a while there will be a universe where a psycho wants to destroy the world, who the hell loves to come. Anyway, he didn't want to come to such a world at all. Recently, the crisis from Thanos naturally goes without saying. If he remembers correctly, in the Doctor Strange plot, Dormammu, the Lord of Darkness, seems to have been looking for the location of the Earth, trying to pull the Earth into the Dark Dimension, right? And, after the Thanos crisis, it seems like there's another Eternals plot. In the depths of the Earth, there is even a 300,000-meter high Tiantian group sleeping. This is so meow, even if he can survive one crisis, he may not be able to survive all crises. God knows if everything will really develop according to the plot he knows. If he can activate an awesome gold finger after crossing, then he will have no problem. But he is just an ordinary person. In the Marvel world, he really doesn't even have the ability to protect himself. Even if it is a fluke to imitate Spider-Man, a similar super ability has been mutated. But what good is that? In front of those supervillains who are about to destroy the Earth and the universe at every turn. A superhero at the level of Spider-Man can only wait to die. As a time traveler, I should have a standard system. You shouldn't send me here to die. System, is it there? Chen Qing called out in his mind. This is his last stubbornness. But at this moment, a cold voice suddenly sounded in Chen Qing's mind. Ding, the strongest GU Master Sign In System is at your service. What instructions does the host have? Chen Qing was overjoyed in his heart. There is really a system. It's just that the name of this system is a bit strange. What is it called? The strongest GU Master Sign In System. But it doesn't matter, as long as it is a system. As long as there is a system, he has unlimited possibilities. System, introduce your ability. Chen Qing asked impatiently. Ding, the strongest GU Master Check-in system is dedicated to cultivating the host into the most powerful GU Master. The host only needs to go to some places to complete the check-in, and then he can get various rewards. You still have a novice gift package, please open it. So that's it, you only need to sign in to get rewards. Regarding this point, Chen Qing nodded quite satisfied. Then, he said to the system, open the novice gift package. Ding, congratulations to the host for opening the novice gift package and obtaining the heavenly art of all things transformation GU, 10 years of Dao Xing, Golden Light GU, and Moonlight GU. May I ask the host if he will receive the reward? Receive. Chen Qing made no hesitation. The next moment, a lot of information about exercises rushed into Chen Qing's mind. This sudden shock of information directly made Chen Qing's eyes roll, and his whole body fell into a state of shutdown. But it was precisely because of this reason that Chen Qing entered a wonderful state. Countless golden words floated directly in Chen Qing's consciousness, allowing him to quickly have a deep understanding of the heavenly art of transforming everything. At the same time, a wave of energy also appeared out of thin air, nourishing Chen Qing's body, and finally gathered in the dantian. After half an hour, Chen Qing gradually woke up. At this moment, his eyes were full of amazement and admiration. This 10,000 things transformation GU heavenly art is so bold. In the later period, he actually directly refined heavenly Dao GU with the Dao of heaven, thus taking control of a world. According to the introduction of the 10,000 Things Transformation GU Heavenly Art to Heavenly Tao GU, this in the Marvel Universe, it can reach the multi-universe level. After all, this is the way to directly control a universe. Now that they have mastered it, it is also easy to destroy nature. And this kind of strength belongs to the multi-universe level in Marvel's division. Moreover, Heavenly Tao GU is not the strongest immortal GU. There are at least hundreds of types of GU that are more powerful than Heavenly Tao GU. There are no less than 10 types of immortal GU that surpass Heavenly Tao GU by 2 or 3 levels. This undoubtedly gave Chen Qing great confidence. As long as he has the help of the system, he will be able to stand at the pinnacle of the Marvel Universe sooner or later. Punching the transcendent, kicking OAA is not a dream at all. After the excitement, Chen Qing carefully felt the true energy in his body at the moment. According to the introduction of the 10,000 Things Transformation GU Tiangong, after absorbing the 10 years of Taoism gifted by the system, his current state should be the pinnacle of a rank 1 GU master. In terms of physical knowledge alone, it has reached 5 times that of ordinary people. This physique is already comparable to Marvel's 50-50 Captain America. It's just that Captain America's strength is more idealistic, and even a level sub-godfather like Thanos can force a 50-50 split. This is obviously beyond what physique can explain. However, Chen Qing's greatest reliance now is not on his physique, but on various GU worms with magical abilities. Thinking of this, Chen Qing turned his gaze to the 2 GU worms on the table in front of him. These 2 GU worms are about the thickness of a certain thumb and the size of a palm. The appearance of the GU worm on the left is golden yellow, like a caterpillar made of gold. The GU worm on the right looks like a sapphire, crystal clear, shaped like a crooked moon, full of mysterious beauty. This is exactly the extra GU worm that was obtained in the novice gift pack, besides the heaven-defying skill of transforming everything into GU Tiangong. And following Chen Qing's gaze, the information of these 2 GU worms also appeared on the side. Golden Light GU. Level. Rank 1 GU Worm. Ability. After activation, it can condense a layer of golden light to resist attacks. In addition, the golden light can also be attached to fist weapons to enhance the attack power. Currently, it can withstand rifle bullets at the highest level. Advanced Rank 2 GU Insect Requirements. Golden Light Grass X1, Sunstone X1, 10-year Poisonous Insect X3. Feeding Requirements. Daily consumption of Jinyang flower petals X2. Moonlight GU. Level. Rank 1 GU Worm. Ability. After activation, it can turn into a small 15 cm moon blade to attack the locked target. Currently, it can attack at a distance of up to 10 meters from the host, and can cut through 10 mm homogeneous armor with full strength. Advanced Rank 2 GU Insect Requirements. Moonlight Grass X1, Moon Crystal X1, 10-year Poisonous Insect X3. Feeding Requirements. Daily consumption of Moonlight Orchid Petals X2. Hiss, this is too strong. Looking at the information introduction in front of him, Chen Qing couldn't help taking a breath. After that, he couldn't wait to inhale 2 GU worms into his body according to the records in the heavenly art of transforming everything. After the golden light GU was inhaled into the body, it directly merged into Chen Qing's dantian. Living in the specially opened GU worm space, Chen Qing only needs to inject true energy into the golden light GU in the GU insect space, and the golden light GU's ability can be activated. As for Moonlight GU, due to its particularity, it cannot be included in the GU insect space. It appeared between Chen Qing's eyebrows, turning into an icy blue crescent moon. It added a bit of enchanting charm to Chen Qing's already handsome face. After doing all this, Chen Qing first tried to inject true energy into the golden light GU in the dantian. Immediately, a layer of liquid golden light flowed down Chen Qing's palm, turning his palm into a golden cast. Chen Qing squeezed the golden light wrapped in his palm curiously. As a result, the tactile sensation under his hand was not as he had imagined, it was the soft tactile sensation of being pinched on plasticine. On the contrary, it seems to be pinched on the metal, as if it is indestructible. However, unlike metal, the golden light film under his hand carried a hint of warmth. This miraculous scene surprised Chen Qing a little. "This golden light GU is really miraculous," Chen Qing exclaimed. Then, he controlled the golden light to flow through his body. In an instant, his whole body became as if cast from gold, and his whole body exuded a faint golden light. In this state, it is enough for him to resist the attack of ordinary rifles without any dead ends. However, compared to just wrapping golden light on the fist, this method of enveloping the whole body with golden light needs to consume 10 times of his true energy. After feeling the consumption of junchi for a while, Chen Qing murmured, "With my current junchi content, it seems that I can only maintain the golden state of the whole body for 10 minutes at most." But being able to achieve this result already made Chen Qing very satisfied. This means that he has a full 10 minutes without fear of ordinary bullets. As long as you don't encounter heavy snipers, machine guns, or RPG weapons, you can basically guarantee your own safety. Moreover, this is just a rank 1 GU worm. After he upgrades to rank 2 or rank 3 GU worms in the future, it is not impossible for him to be directly bombarded by the golden light GU without fear of missile bombing. Then Chen Qing tried to turn the golden light into a wall of light to block in front of him. And this time it was also successful. A 5-meter long and 3-meter wide light wall was erected in front of his eyes, blocking the entire area in front of him. It's just that this time the true energy was consumed even more, fully 5 times that of the little golden man. If it is said that he can maintain the golden man state for 10 minutes, then turning the golden light into a wall of light, he can only maintain it for 2 minutes. Golden light GU's developability seems to be very strong. Such a strong plasticity made Chen Qing sigh. Then he controlled the golden light to change its shape continuously. However, no matter what shape it becomes, Jingguang can easily complete the change without any reduction in hardness. And this also means that Chen Qing will have more choices when attacking. After experimenting with the golden light GU for a while, and probably mastering the properties of the golden light GU, Chen Qing turned his attention to the moonlight GU. Compared to the more defensive golden light GU, the moonlight GU is his real means of attack. Chen Qing directly injected her true energy into the moonlight GU between her eyebrows. In an instant, the blue crescent moon between his brows burst into an icy blue light. The next moment, a round of sapphire-like, crystal-clear ice blue thin blades flew out from between Chen Qing's eyebrows and danced around Chen Qing's body. Finally, it stopped in front of Chen Qing. In Chen Qing's mind, 2 pictures are emerging at this moment. One is the picture he sees with his eyes now, and the protagonist in the other picture is an oriental young man with an extremely handsome face and a somewhat bewitching aura. This is exactly the picture transmitted by the moonlight GU. It's amazing, it's as if I have another body. Chen Qing couldn't help exclaiming. With just one thought, he can easily control the actions of moonlight GU as if he were in control of his own body. Any place within 10 meters can be his attack range. Let me see your power, Chen Qing murmured. The next moment, the moonlight GU instantly turned into a ray of cold light, slashing towards the wall. Clang! A burst of sparks flew, and the reinforced concrete wall of Chen Qing's villa, which was more than 10 centimeters thick, was cut through by the sharp blade of the moonlight GU in an instant. And that speed was so fast that Chen Qing didn't even realize it. Hiss! This is too terrifying. If it is cut to the human body, it will be cut in half. Chen Qing took a breath. The sharpness and attack speed of moonlight GU are simply terrifying. Even he, who has 5 times the physique of ordinary people, can't react, so the fate of ordinary people can be imagined. The only flaw is that the attack range is too small, only 10 meters away. However, after the moonlight GU is promoted to a rank 2 GU worm in the future, the attack distance will definitely be improved to a certain extent. Chen Qing turned his attention to the promotion conditions of golden light GU and moonlight GU. The 10-year poisonous insect is not that hard to find, but what are the golden glowing grass, sunstone, moonlight grass, and moon crystal? Chen Qing murmured suspiciously. At least he had never heard of such a thing, nor had he found such a thing in the original body's memory. And there are jin-yang flowers and moon orchid flowers that GU worms need to eat every day, and he has never heard of them. System, can you find the things that the GU worms need to upgrade, and the things that the GU worms need to eat, in this world? If you can't find them, wouldn't it be impossible to even raise the GU worms? Chen Qing frowned and asked aloud. Ding, after scanning, there are most of the materials needed to upgrade the GU in this world, but the names are different. In addition, after completing the sign-in task, you can also obtain the materials needed to upgrade the GU. Chen Qing's frown suddenly relaxed. That being the case, he doesn't need to worry much. Moreover, he is considered to be a small asset now, so it shouldn't be difficult to buy these upgrade materials. Then is there any sign-in task now? Chen Qing asked aloud. He is now eager to improve his strength. After Tony became Iron Man, if he remembered correctly. There are only about 2 years left before the first invasion of the Avengers Alliance 1 Thanos army, and he must seize all the time to improve his strength as soon as possible. And after Chen Qing's fall, the voice of the system also sounded in Chen Qing's mind at this moment. Ding, the host is requested to go to the Afghanistan militant camp to sign in within half a month. The coordinates of the militant camp are XXX. Afghan rebel camp. Could it be this? Chen Qing cast his eyes on the TV screen with strange eyes. On TV, Tony Stark, who is still a playboy, is still talking freely, introducing how awesome the Stark military industry he made is. He also said that he will go to Afghanistan in the near future to test with the military how powerful the weapons he has built are. No wonder those militants hijacked Tony Stark. After all, for the Afghan people, the Eagle Sauce Kingdom is a pure invader. And Tony Stark, who provided powerful lethal weapons to the Yingjiang country's military, is their enemy. As a result, this enemy now wants to go to his own territory to test the power of the weapon. It's like riding on top of their heads and shitting. Can this be tolerated? Definitely. After this incident, it also made Tony Stark see clearly the nature and cruelty of war. As a result, the Stark Arms Company, which was making money every day, was closed. This is one of the reasons why Iron Man, a former arms dealer, is so popular. I don't know if the place where I checked in this time is the same place where Tony Stark was detained. Otherwise, you can meet this man cursed by knowledge. However, half a month is not enough time. Although he has already mastered the myriad things transforming GU Heaven skill, and possesses the Golden Light GU and Moonlight GU of rank 1 GU insects. But in essence, it's just a mortal body. It is impossible to span thousands of kilometers in one thought. Thinking of this, Chen Qing picked up his mobile phone and called the secretary who helped him manage the company. Beep, beep. The phone rang twice and was picked up. A woman's voice that sounded a bit deserted came from the phone. Boss, do you have any orders? Chen Qing recalled the information about this woman in his memory. Soon, he found what he wanted. This woman named Shen Yuexi seems to be the backhand left behind by Yuanxin's deceased parents. After all, the original body is not a commercial type of talent, but a full-fledged otaku. Naturally, you need a trustworthy person to manage your own business. And Shen Yuexi is such a secretary who was brought up by the original owner's parents from a young age, whose appearance can be scored at least 9 points, and whose work ability is directly full, and who can be trusted 100%. Definitely, the idea of the original parents was to train the two into a husband and wife. However, the original body was addicted to the second dimension and games, and Shen Yuexi was addicted to work. So the two have basically no contact, even met a few times, and they don't call each other. So much so that the original parents gave up the idea of matching the two. And the two gradually developed into the current relationship between superior and subordinate. Withdrawing his thoughts, Chen Qing said to the other end of the phone, "Help me book a plane ticket to the capital of Afghanistan, and also help me buy some poisonous insects that are more than 10 years old, as well as some special plants and ores." After hearing Chen Qing's words, Shen Yuexi, who was sitting in the CEO's office on the other end of the phone, frowned and said, "Boss, I don't suggest you go there at this time." After finishing speaking, he seemed to be afraid that Chen Qing would not know the situation, and continued, "There may be chaos in Afghanistan in the near future. The arms dealer named Tony Stark is about to go to Afghanistan. I don't think those militants will let him go. This opportunity for revenge, if you pass at this time, may be in danger." Chen Qing couldn't help but froze listening to the voice on the other end of the phone. My own secretary Bullfrog. Surprisingly, relying on a piece of news, all the connected plots were analyzed. Putting it in a company with a mere market value of hundreds of millions, that's really inferior. It's okay, just help me buy a ticket, I have my own plans. Chen Qing imitated Yuan's usual tone, and replied calmly. With his physique 5 times that of ordinary people at this moment, and the 2 rank 1 GU insects, Golden Light GU and Moonlight GU, his current strength is not considered weak. As long as the enemy doesn't use iron fools like tanks and armored vehicles, or air units like helicopters, there's nothing they can do about him. And Shen Yuexi in the office frowned even more when he heard Chen Qing's insistence. However, she also knew that Chen Qing was an adult with his own thoughts. No matter how hard she tried to stop it, it was impossible to stop Chen Qing. So, after a moment of silence, she agreed to Chen Qing's request, and said, "Yes, but you must bring bodyguards." Chen Qing, bodyguard, is this the life of the rich? Don't worry, I know, I won't joke about my safety. Chen Qing agreed, and then hung up the phone directly. On the other side, Shen Yuexi rubbed her aching temple, and murmured tiredly, "Why is this young master running to Afghanistan at this time? Alas, the company's affairs. Forget it, even if you tell him, he won't be of much help." And half an hour after Chen Qing hung up the phone, he received a text message from Shen Yuexi. "The air ticket has been booked, and it is a flight to the capital of Afghanistan in 7 days. In addition, I will also take care of the collection of special ores, plants, and poisonous insects for more than 10 years. Single quote. To this, Chen Qing nodded in satisfaction. Her cheap parents are really awesome. I found such a reliable secretary for myself. At the same time, this also made Chen Qing feel the benefits of having someone to do things. Maybe he can think of a way to expand the company's assets in the future, so that he can do more things for him in the future. The plane ticket is 7 days away, so I will use this time to learn fighting skills. This is enough to rival Captain America's physique and can't be wasted." Chen Qing put away the phone and walked out of the villa. He is going to go to those more famous martial arts gyms to learn fighting skills and soldiers' skills. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. The time has also come to the moment of boarding the plane. And Chen Qing, who was making the final adjustments in the villa, also slowly opened his eyes. In the past 7 days, he spent a lot of money to invite various martial arts coaches and military experts to make up for various fighting skills. And how to deal with a large number of enemies with hot weapons. After all, what he was going to was a war-torn zone where armed conflicts might occur at any time. Fortunately, because of the All Things Transformation GU Tiangong, my current aptitude has improved a lot. Otherwise, there is really no hope of learning so many things in such a short period of time. Chen Qing, who had already boarded the flight to Afghanistan, sighed in his heart. The effect of the 10,000 Things Transformation GU Heaven skill is very powerful. Those true Qi not only strengthened his body, but also carried out a series of transformations similar to marrow washing. Whether it is the reaction speed of his brain or the ability of all aspects of his body, he has been greatly improved. Moreover, among the various GUs introduced by the 10,000 Things Transformation GU Tiangong, there are Wisdom GU that enhances intelligence, Bull GU and Heavenly Dragon GU that enhance strength. If he could refine this GU, his wisdom and physique would be greatly improved. However, the refining materials for these GU are very rare. At least in the short term, Chen Qing can't find hope of getting these materials together. After about 6 hours of flight, the plane landed in the capital of Afghanistan. On the way of the plane flying over, Chen Qing had already seen the artillery fire in many areas below, which made his expression a lot more dignified. It seems that Afghanistan's situation is much more serious than he imagined. I don't know if my trip will be smooth. He still has some sympathy for the poor country of Afghanistan. After all, the country of Afghanistan is just because it is located at the intersection of West Asia, Central Asia, and South Asia, and it is the main channel for the West to enter the East. Therefore, it was invaded mercilessly, and the country became a battlefield for great powers. Especially the Eagle Sauce country, which has fought directly here for more than 20 years. However, sympathy belongs to sympathy. If someone dares to block him from signing in, then he won't be merciful at all. Chen Qing does not hope that one day in the future, such a powerless thing will fall on her head. Chen Qing quickly got off the plane and bought a desert off-road vehicle. After bringing enough supplies, Chen Qing hired a local guide, and under the leadership of the local tour guide, drive towards the check-in location displayed by the system. In a dark cave, the future Iron Man, Tony Stark and a skinny middle-aged man were busy tapping on the console. Beside them, a lot of parts have been piled up. However, because it was not assembled, it is not yet possible to determine what the role of these parts is. Ethan, do you have any family? Seeing that his steel battle suit was about to be completed, Tony chose to ask in order to relieve the excitement at the moment. The thin middle-aged man on the opposite side, that is, Dr. Ethan, heard this, raised his head and glanced at Tony, then shrugged with a smile. Definitely, I'll go see them when I leave here. Tony laughed, too. We'll be out of here in a second, I promise. After all, he cast his eyes on the parts beside him, his eyes full of confidence. Dr. Ethan just smiled, and then continued to work with his head down. Time flies, and this set of battle suits, which Tony calls Flying Valley suits, is gradually taking shape. It's just that the difference between Tony's Valley Leaping suit and the missile's appearance is too great. The leader of the 10 Rings who brought Tony here had faintly noticed something was wrong. He was even going to stuff the red-hot coals into Ethan's mouth, and torture the two people's purpose from Ethan's mouth. However, fortunately, after Tony promised that the missile would be assembled tomorrow, the leader of 10 Rings let the two of them go temporarily. However, the eyes of Tony and Ethan, who survived the catastrophe, were full of determination. They cannot hand over their fate to these crazy terrorists. When Tony completed the final mask, Tony and Ethan looked at each other, knowing that it was time to leave. Next is the important moment to really decide whether they can escape from here. If they can't escape, they will all die. Those cold-blooded members of 10 Rings will not show any mercy. The two did not communicate, but they acted tacitly. Tony began to prepare for the steel battle suit, and Ethan quickly installed the manufactured explosives on the iron gate that prevented them from escaping. As long as someone tried to open the gate, the explosion of the bomb was enough to buy them some time. After doing this, Ethan quickly helped Tony put on the battle suit. He knew that this steel battle suit was the key to their escape. Tony and Ethan, who disappeared from the surveillance screen, also immediately attracted the attention of the leader of 10 Rings. Go to 2 people and see what's going on. The leader of 10 Rings immediately shouted to his subordinates behind him. And the 2 members of 10 Rings also ran towards the cave where Tony and Ethan were imprisoned. Boom, accompanied by a burst of huge amounts of explosions. The 2 10 Rings members who tried to open the door were instantly blown out by the bomb. And hearing this movement, the leader of 10 Rings didn't know that Tony and Ethan were playing with him. He immediately greeted the 10 Rings members, ready to rush into the cave. At this moment, in the depths of the cave, Tony, who was wearing a steel battle suit and could not move at all, heard the dense footsteps coming from outside the cave, and said in a panic, "They are coming." As the richest man living in a peaceful country, this was the first time he encountered such a situation, which made him a little at a loss. Ethan was also extremely anxious. Seeing that the progress bar was still stuck at 60%, he put his hands on the table and murmured, "We still need a little time." After a while, he made a decision in his mind, turned to look at Tony. "I'll buy you some time." After all, he directly picked up the rifle dropped by the member of 10 Rings who was blown up on the ground before, and ran towards the outside of the cave while shooting. And Tony, trapped in the steel battle suit, couldn't stop Ethan at all. At this moment, he could only shout at Ethan's back with red eyes, "Ethan, follow the original plan." He knew that Ethan was not a combatant, and confronting the murderous members of the 10 Rings was simply a dead end. But it's a pity that Ethan, who has long been determined to buy time for Tony, has no intention of stopping at all. Shooting while running, he drove out the 10 Rings members who had rushed into the cave before. However, Ethan suffered from his lack of combat experience after all. When he was about to reach the entrance of the cave, he rushed out of the corner without any hesitation, exposing himself to the gunpoint of the leader of 10 Rings and a group of members. Seeing this scene, Ethan was numb all over. He didn't expect such a scene at all. Don't buy time for Tony now, he probably won't even have a chance to change one. It's over, I'm not suitable for fighting after all. I don't know if this will buy Tony some time. I hope you don't waste your life in the future. Ethan sighed inwardly. He has done the best he can. Tony can only go the rest of the way. Thinking of this, Ethan closed his eyes and prepared to wait for death. And the members of 10 Rings naturally wouldn't show mercy, they pulled the trigger without hesitation. Intensive firepower poured out immediately. Ethan seemed to feel that countless bullets were pouring on his body. However, the next moment he heard a strange bang, and the panicked shouts of those 10 Rings members. Ethan opened his eyes suspiciously, and looked in front of him. I saw an Oriental man with black half-long hair standing in front of him at the moment. At the same time, with the opponent's open palm, a layer of golden mask was blocking them, blocking all the bullets. And it was for this reason that the members of 10 Rings were startled and exclaimed, what is this thing? Energy barrier. Ethan's heart was also filled with huge amounts of shock. As the world's top physicist, Ethan is very clear that the energy barrier is completely just a fantasy in terms of the current technology of the Earth. Not to mention blocking bullets, whether the energy barrier can appear stably is a huge amounts of question. But at this moment, the thing used by this mysterious Oriental youth completely overturned his cognition. Is the technology of the East already so outrageous? Energy barrier. You can understand it this way. Chen Qing turned back and smiled at Dr. Ethan, and said. He still has a good impression of Dr. Ethan, the guide of Iron Man. Moreover, the other party is not only a top physicist, but also a doctor, which is a rare talent. If the other party can join his subordinates, it will be of great help to his company's business development. It can even allow him to get involved in many high-end industries. But let's chat for a while, let me get rid of these people first. Chen Qing cast his eyes on the members of 10 Rings in front of him, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Compared to those who, in order to recover their own country, assembled their armed forces to fight against the invaders. 10 Rings is just a bunch of real terrorists. 10 Rings even imagined ruling the world with the help of Stark weapons. Moreover, whether it is for people in their own country or ordinary civilians in other countries, 10 Rings will mercilessly brandish their butcher knives. Totally a pack of hyenas banded together for their own benefit. For such a person, Chen Qing would naturally not show mercy. Chen Qing directly injected a large amount of junqi into the moonlight Gu between the eyebrows. The next moment, an icy blue crescent moon flew out from between his eyebrows. Instantly across the necks of all 10 Rings members. And because the speed was too fast and the moonlight Gu was too sharp, these 10 Rings members didn't react at all. They just felt a chill on their necks, as if they were brushed by something, and they didn't realize that they had been beheaded at all. Until the moment their heads fell from their necks. On the faces of these 10 Rings members, there was a look of horror that would only appear on the faces of civilians who were massacred by them in the past. Puff! More than a dozen blood pillars shot up into the sky immediately, like a fountain. The bloody smell mixed with the smell of rust also spread out immediately. Chen Qing frowned subconsciously, he didn't like the smell very much. Even when taking back the moonlight Gu, he checked the moonlight Gu carefully, after confirming that it was not stained with blood. Only then did Chen Qing put the moonlight Gu in between her eyebrows again. But at this moment, Ethan, who was standing behind Chen Qing holding a gun, was completely stunned at the scene in front of him. Is this really a technological method? His tone was full of disbelief. Due to the viewing angle, he could only see the blue flying darts, which flew out from the Oriental youth. However, he can't figure out what kind of technology is needed to make such a thin flying darts have such a powerful lethality. Even with the technology of drones, it's not enough to cut vegetables and melons. Let's chop off the heads of more than a dozen people in a row. This is definitely not a technology, but a magical method called Gu in the East. Get to know me, my name is Chen Qing, and I'm a businessman from Dragon Kingdom. Chen Qing turned around, stretched out his hand to Ethan kindly and said. Ethan immediately held Chen Qing's hand flattered, and said politely, "Hi, my name is Ethan, and I'm a physicist." However, just when the two wanted to continue talking, Tony's voice suddenly came from inside the cave. "Ethan, are you okay?" Along with Tony's voice, there was the sound of heavy footsteps. Both Chen Qing and Ethan turned their gazes to the direction deep in the cave. At this moment, a big guy with a height of more than 2 meters and a spliced appearance made of silver-white metal plates appeared at the corner of the cave. That big guy full of mechanical sense made Chen Qing's eyes flash with surprise. As the first generation of Mark armor, this is definitely the most crude armor that Tony has built in his life. Even the attack methods are only the flamethrowers in both arms and a rocket in the right arm. Armor can only withstand ordinary light weapon attacks. However, when it comes to realism, it has to be that the Mark I looks the most real. At least Chen Qing likes the thick and big guy like Mark I very much. And Tony, who came out of the cave, was ready for a big fight. Looking at the tragic scene outside the cave, and Ethan standing with a strange young man from the east, he was completely dumbfounded. What is the situation now? The brain of the genius richest man has fallen into chaos. Fortunately, Ethan saw Tony's embarrassment, and immediately greeted him. This is Mr. Chen Qing, a person from Longguo. Having said that, he glanced at Chen Qing strangely, and then said, a businessman. In fact, he didn't even believe it himself when he said it. Is it reasonable that a Dragon Country businessman has such a powerful means? But since Chen Qing says he is a businessman, he must be a businessman. Powerful people will always have eccentricities of one kind or another, and it's completely understandable. And Tony's eyes also became strange. The person who most likely created the hellish scene in front of him actually said he was a businessman. What kind of businessman can have such terrible means? Moreover, he couldn't understand at all what kind of ability the other party used to chop off the heads of these people neatly. However, since the other party appeared here at this moment, and attacked the members of 10 Rings. So for the time being, the two sides will not be enemies. Maybe it can help him and Ethan get out of this ghost place as soon as possible. Tony wouldn't naively think that with the steel battle suit, he could leave here easily. When he was caught, he had already seen the surrounding defenses clearly. In this 10 Rings camp, there are not only nearly 100 militants. At the same time, there are many RPGs, heavy machine guns and other weapons placed on each checkpoint. Even if he could escape by luck, Ethan has absolutely no hope of escaping. He needs the help of the so-called Dragon Country businessman in front of him. Hello, my name is Tony Stark. Since you are a businessman, you must know me. Tony lowered his raised arms and walked towards Chen Qing and Ethan. It's just that his tone still carries his usual self-confidence. Definitely, the chairman of the famous Stark Group, who wouldn't know him. Chen Qing smiled and stretched out his hand towards the big Iron Man in front of him. He still admires the man cursed by knowledge in front of him. If it weren't for Tony Stark's sacrifice, Thanos would never have been defeated, and those wiped out with a snap of the fingers would never return. Tony lifted his helmet, held Chen Qing's hand and smiled, and said, I don't know if Mr. Chen Qing can help Ethan and I escape from here. You will become my forever friend, Tony Stark. Chen Qing let go of his hand, patted Iron Armor on the shoulder, and said with a smile, it would be great to be Tony Stark's friend. Then, he turned his gaze to Ethan, and said with a kind smile, and Dr. Ethan is a rare talent. It would be too wasteful to die here. The future of the Earth still needs your help. Chen Qing's words made Ethan stunned. He could see that Chen Qing seemed to want to recruit himself. However, after the death of his family members, he had a desire to die in his heart. He doesn't want to continue playing for anyone anymore. Ethan just wanted to say no, and even wanted Chen Qing and Tony not to bring him this burden. The result was directly interrupted by Chen Qing. Okay, let's talk about everything after we go out. In the next battle, Tony is in charge of the main attack, and I will help you deal with the missed enemies. Whether it is Golden Light GU or Moonlight GU, it is not easy to use in the face of such a large number of enemies. After all, the attack distance of Golden Light GU and Moonlight GU is too short, far inferior to Tony who has 2 flamethrowers. The flamethrower, which can shoot a pillar of fire tens of meters, is undoubtedly the best main attacker on the battlefield. Not only the lethality is amazing, but also the psychological pressure on the enemy is huge. In the original movie, Tony also relied on this pair of flamethrowers to successfully suppress the enemy. Now that there is another him, it shouldn't be a big problem to keep Ethan out. Well, don't worry. Tony nodded and put the visor back on. Immediately afterwards, Tony took a deep breath, and then there was a real battle. However, because of having a miraculous Long Kingdom merchant comrade in arms, he was not so nervous. Gathering his thoughts, Tony walked out of the cave with heavy steps. At this moment, the members of 10 Rings outside the cave had already prepared. All kinds of machine guns, bazookas and other weapons were set up and aimed at the entrance of the cave. Although they don't know what happened in the cave. However, just from the shouts at his companions who suddenly disappeared and the fierce firefight before, even with his knees, he knew that something must have happened inside. And when the members of the 10 Rings saw a steel monster stepping out, they were all taken aback. Oh my God, what the hell is this monster? This monster must have killed the leader, kill him. It must be that Yingjiang country scientist who messed up. I said people from Yingjiang country are unreliable. The members of the 10 Rings pulled the trigger without hesitation. A dense firepower net immediately shot towards Tony. Even without much professional training, the accuracy of these 10 Rings members can be said to be very hip. But under the strafing of nearly 100 guns, a large number of bullets still flew towards Tony. The battle suit should be able to stop these bullets, Tony said nervously. Although I have already understood the data of the steel battle suit, I know that facing this level of bullets should not be a problem. However, when facing it for real, Tony still felt guilty in his heart. However, at this moment, a golden, liquid-like thing suddenly appeared in front of him. Then, it turned into a 3-meter-high, semicircular city wall that firmly guarded his front. Dang 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 dang. The densely packed bullets strafed the semicircular barrier, shooting out a lot of sparks. However, none of the bullets worked. This fluid wall looks like it was made of steel. Tony half-turned subconsciously, looking at the direction of the golden fluid behind him. Then, he saw the golden liquid flowing from the hands of Chen Cheng, who claimed to be a Dragon Country businessman. Is this nanotechnology? Tony exclaimed. Nanotechnology is a field that even he has never set foot in. And he claimed to be the top scientist in the world, but he never expected someone to be ahead of him in this area. This is not a technological method, it seems to be a mysterious oriental power called GU. Holding the weapon tightly, Ethan, who was following behind Chen Cheng, explained. In fact, he was also very curious about what this thing called GU was. Why can such a miraculous thing be done? Insanity. Tony frowned, he seemed to have heard of this thing before. But isn't that some weird nasty poisonous bug? When did GU have this magical power? However, before Tony could continue to ask, Chen Cheng interrupted the conversation between the two of them, and he said helplessly, I said, you two, we are on the battlefield now, can we leave here first, we are discussing about GU matter. Is this the scientist? Too much curiosity. And Tony and Ethan also suddenly showed shame on their faces. Unexpectedly, I committed the occupational disease of being too curious again. Tony raised his arms directly, and asked Chen Cheng behind him at the same time, my weapon is a flamethrower with both arms. If I activate the flamethrower directly, it won't affect this GU, right? He was a little worried that the golden liquid in front of him was a nano-robot-like creature. After all, in the news he heard, GU was a very magical and disgusting bug. It is very likely that there will be heavy casualties due to his high-temperature flames. After all, there are no insects that are not afraid of fire. Don't worry, nothing will happen, Chen Cheng replied. While speaking, Chen Cheng narrowed his eyes slightly, observing the semicircular wall in front of him transformed by the golden light GU. The bullets fired by the members of the 10 Rings, after hitting the wall transformed by the golden light GU, were slid to the sides one after another, which greatly enhanced the defense of the golden light GU. It seems that it is necessary to learn mathematics, physics and chemistry well. At least at this moment, the wall transformed by the golden light GU can easily resist even heavy machine gun bullets. Since you've said that, Tony also stopped hesitation and directly pulled the trigger. Puff! The two fire dragons immediately burned towards the surrounding enemies. With scalding high-temperature flames, like the sickle of death god, it harvests the life of all enemies within the range. This is the terrifying weapon that humans have been using since ancient times since they mastered flames. Those 10 Rings members who got close suddenly uttered screams, turned into firemen one by one and began to run away. And Ethan also directly started shooting with his rifle. Whether it was Tony or Ethan, neither of them could bear it at the moment. During the time they were captured, they had already seen the brutality of this group of 10 Rings members. The members of these 10 rings are no longer human, but a group of demons in human skin. And Chen Qing was naturally not idle. While maintaining the golden light GU, he was also watching the movements of the surrounding 10 rings members. Perhaps because of the angle, the golden light GU could even resist the heavy machine gun fire. However, golden light GU would definitely not be able to withstand an RPG attack. Chen Qing had to get rid of the RPG or the RPG releaser before the RPG attack fell on the light wall released by the golden light GU. Otherwise they are very likely to be in danger. Chen Qing may be able to survive with a physique 5 times that of ordinary people. However, Tony and Ethan are hard to say. The 3 rushed towards the outside all the way, and the process went very smoothly. Under Tony's 2 flamethrowers opened the way. No member of the 10 rings dared stand in their way. However, when they were halfway there, the sharp-eyed Tony immediately noticed a hillside, the members of 10 rings who were about to launch the RPG. "Be careful, RPG!" Tony yelled loudly in shock. He vigorously raised his right arm, and fired his only rocket towards the 10 rings member who was about to launch an RPG. Whoosh! Boom! It's a pity, although Tony tried his best to be standard. But he wasn't a well-trained professional fighter after all. The rocket grazed the 10 rings member's body and skipped aside. Then it hit the mountain wall behind and exploded. Although the splashed gravel caused a lot of trouble to the 10 rings member and delayed the launch time of the 10 rings member. But after the 10 rings member recovered, he finally lifted the RPG again. It's over. If only there was an aiming aid. Tony raised his arms in desperation, shooting flames in the direction of the 10 rings member. However, Tony's approach was futile after all. Although his flamethrower has been modified, its attack distance is only 40 to 50 meters. There is no way to threaten the 10 rings member who is about to launch an RPG. Whoosh! The 10 rings member finally pulled the trigger. A rocket with a long tail flame flew towards the position of the 3 of them. Tony can only use his body to block the front at the moment. He is the only one who can block this attack now. However, whether he can stop it or not, he doesn't have much confidence in his heart. All the time seems to be slowed down. Tony can even see the trajectory of the rocket. At the same time, he also began to recall his own life. The marquee of Tony's life is starting to run. However, when the rocket was still 10 meters away from everyone, an icy blue crescent-like thin blade instantly crossed Tony's eyes. Whoosh whoosh. Even in Tony's decelerated world at the moment, this ice blue thin blade still seemed to be accelerated. In an instant, the rocket was skipped a dozen times. Tony could even see the dreamy afterimage trailing behind the thin ice blue blade. Boom! The shredded rocket exploded instantly. It's just that the rockets are at a distance from them. In addition, the rocket was shredded, and the explosion could not occur in a confined space, and its power was greatly weakened. Therefore, the lethality of these shrapnel blown over is far less than normal. It couldn't penetrate the golden shield in front of it at all. Wardfa, Tony, who was in the steel battle suit, was immediately shocked. What are these flying darts? Could it be the GU mentioned earlier? Tony couldn't imagine what kind of bug could do this kind of flight faster than the rocket, and it could cut the rocket into dozens of pieces in an instant. It's just some small tricks, so let's move on. I can't hold on for too long. Chen Qing wiped the sweat from his forehead and said. It is not an easy task for him to control Moonlight GU to this extent. The speed that the Moonlight GU used to exceed the speed of sound. Even for Chen Qing, it was already the limit. It was an attack that took a lot of true energy from his body and released it. If it weren't for the fact that the opponent used RPG-7 series rockets with a flight speed of only 282 meters per second, which gave him enough time to react, even he would have found it difficult to do this kind of thing. After all, he just has 5 times more physique than ordinary people, and he doesn't directly become Superman or the Flash. Chen Qing's words made Tony a little speechless. Could this be called a trick? Come on, that's a rocket. And it's still such a close-range rocket. It didn't even take a third of a second from being released to flying to their faces. You call this a trick? However, now is obviously not the time to delve into these matters. The surrounding 10 rings members, after recovering from the shock, organized a counterattack again. If he didn't act, the next RPG that flew over would not be just 1 or 2. Chen Qing, Ethan, let's speed up. Tony yelled and started running straight away. The steel battle suit weighing more than 600 kilograms is not slow at this moment. At least, until the 10 Rings member with the RPG replaced the rocket, Tony obviously had no problem getting him into range. And Chen Qing was also not idle. Under his control, the Moonlight GU quickly swept over the necks of all 10 Rings members within 10 meters. Even the Moonlight GU, which can easily penetrate even a 10 mm homogeneous steel, cut off the necks of these 10 Rings members with little effort. In an instant, the entire 10 Rings camp turned into a purgatory. A member of 10 Rings died tragically at the hands of Chen Qing. The scene was absolutely bloody. Ethan, who had never seen such a bloody scene, didn't even dare to turn his head to look to both sides. It is conceivable how terrifying the scene at this moment is. However, I don't know if it's because of my own personality, or because of the heavenly skill of transforming everything into GU. Chen Qing felt nothing at all about the bloody scene around him. He just calmly resolved the possible dangers around him. In addition, spears condensed by golden light GU appeared in his hands from time to solve those relatively distant troubles. With his physique 5 times that of ordinary people, the power of these thrown spears is no less than that of heavy crossbows, and the consumption of true energy is also within an acceptable range. The only regret is that Chen Qing's aim is not very good, and it is not bad to hit 3 out of 10 shots. However, even if this powerful attack method fails to hit the enemy, the psychological pressure on these 10 Rings members is also great. Enough to relieve some of the defensive pressure. About 5 minutes later, Tony, Ethan, and Chen Qing successfully broke out of the 10 Rings camp. And the members of 10 Rings with guns in the rear were completely numb. Reason told them that they should pursue and avenge their leader who might have died. But reason told them not to provoke those 2 monsters anymore. They don't stand a chance at all. Especially the man who keeps throwing golden spears like a death god. It made them even more terrifying. Although the spear thrown by the opponent is not very accurate. But that's the real horror, okay. Because no one is sure who the injured person will be when the opponent throws a spear. Looks like we're safe. Looking at the members of 10 Rings who did not continue to chase after him, Tony said with a heavy sigh of relief. Although this battle had only lasted 5 minutes, it still made him feel like he was about to collapse. He had never experienced such an exciting thing in his life. Thank goodness we managed to escape. Ethan also felt a little weak in his legs. The feeling of those bullets constantly hitting me is not good. He felt as if half of his foot had stepped into hell, as if the death god's scythe was already on his neck. Although he has already had a death wish in his heart, he wants to accompany his family. However, this kind of exciting scene made his old Ethan, an old man in his 60s, really unable to stand it. However, Chen Qing didn't speak at this moment. Because, in front of his eyes, the message of successful sign-in was appearing. Ding! Congratulations that you have completed the sign-in, you have obtained 30 years of Taoism, Bone Corrosion GU, and Little Light GU. Chen Qing raised his eyebrows slightly. He had actually arrived nearby 3 days ago. However, because the sign-in has not been completed, he has been hovering around without acting rashly. It wasn't until he heard an explosion coming from the cave, letting Chen Qing know that the plot in Iron Man 1 had begun, that he started to act. On the one hand, Chen Qing wants to keep Ethan as a talent to work for him. On the other hand, Chen Qing also wants to see what is the completion condition of the sign-in system. However, up to now, Chen Qing still doesn't understand what the system's successful sign-in mechanism is, but he has a few guesses in his mind. One guess is to wait for the end of this episode to complete the sign-in. The other is to participate in the plot and promote the development of the plot in order to complete the sign-in. And the last one is to participate in the plot and make changes to the plot to complete the sign-in. However, judging from the current situation, Chen Qing feels that the possibility of these 3 guesses is quite high. But if you want to know exactly which one it is, you can only verify it when you sign in later. Concentrating the distracting thoughts in his mind, Chen Qing set his sights on the reward for signing in this time. 30 years of Taoism. Needless to say, it is naturally a good thing. It is the key factor to enhance his strength and enable him to better control GU worms. However, it is unknown what happened to the remaining 2 GU. But as far as the names of these two GU are concerned, the opponent should not be bad. Chen Qing set his sights on these two GU with some expectation. Bone Corrosion GU. Level. Rank 1 GU Worm. Ability. It only has the size of rice grains on the outside, and it flies silently. Once it penetrates into the human body, it can cause the human bones to be corroded by poison within 3 days. As long as the GU user uses his thoughts, the Bone Erosion GU can be activated instantly, turn bones into pus and blood. Advanced Rank 2 GU Insect Requirements. Rotten Bone Grass X1, Tianian Stone X1, 10-year Poisonous Insect X3. Feeding Requirements. Daily consumption of poisonous blood X2. Little Light GU. Level. Rank 1 GU Worm. Ability. After activation, the power of Moonlight GU can be enhanced. After activation, the speed and destructive power of Moonlight GU will be doubled. The effects cannot be superimposed. At the same time, 2 small light gusts can be refined with Moonlight GU to make Moonlight GU, and the power of Moonlight GU it is 3 times that of Moonlight GU. Advanced Rank 2 GU Insect Requirements. Moonlight Grass X1, Moon Crystal X1, 10-year Poisonous Insect X1. Feeding Requirements. Daily consumption of Moon Orchid Petals X1. Hiss. What a vicious GU worm. Chen Qing looked at the introduction of Bone Corrosion GU, and couldn't help but gasped. Once this Bone Erosion GU is planted in another person's body, it only takes 3 days, and the other person can be said to be a dead man. Life and death in the future will be in his hands. I just don't know if Bone Erosion GU can work on those super ability users. As for the small light GU, the effect is actually quite good. Used together with the Moonlight GU, it can even double the speed and destructive power of the Moonlight GU. The most important thing is that 2 small light GU can be refined into Moonlight GU with Moonlight GU. And the power of Moonlight GU is fully 3 times that of Moonlight GU. The rewards of this trip, just these 30 years of practice, are already worth it. Not to mention there are 2 GU worms with pretty good effects. The only pity is that the number of Little Light GU is 1 less, otherwise Chen Qing can upgrade Moonlight GU into Moonlight GU. System, where is the next check-in location? Chen Qing asked in his heart. He wanted to see what the next check-in location for the system would be. Then complete the sign-in in the shortest time, and quickly improve your own strength. After all, under normal circumstances, Earth will face its first threat from Thanos in 2 years. If you can't have at least the strength of level sub-Godfather in the shortest time, I'm afraid it will be difficult for him to play a role when the crisis of Thanos comes. Ding. Except for special check-in locations, the system will not specifically designate the check-in location. The host can randomly check in at any location, but only once every 24 hours. What? Is that so? Chen Qing was speechless. Didn't he miss several sign-in opportunities in vain these days? However, this matter is not to blame for the system does not seem to be very intelligent. So much so that he didn't think about it at all. However, it is not too late to know now. Moreover, he was a little worried that the system would let him fly around to check in, so he was always busy running around. I didn't expect the system to be so user-friendly. I just don't know what can be rewarded for this kind of ordinary sign-in. The system, can I sign in now? Chen Qing then asked in his heart. Ding. Check-ins at specially designated locations are not counted in the number of check-ins, the host can check in at any time. Chen Qing was overjoyed, so he could try the normal sign-in rewards. Then I'm going to sign in. Chen Qing immediately replied in her heart. Ding. May I ask if the host wants to sign in the Talda area of the Afghan Khanate? The system replied. Sure. Chen Qing answered in her heart. Ding. Congratulations that you have completed the sign-in, and you will be rewarded with 3 months of Taoism and GU Worm Feed Gift Pack X10. 3 months of practice. GU Worm Feed Gift Pack. There was some surprise in Chen Qing's eyes. Although this reward is not as good as before, it is not bad. Although 12 months of Taoism can be counted as 1 year of Taoism. But this is not a small improvement for him. As for this GU Worm Feed Gift Pack, Chen Qing set his sights on the introduction of the GU Worm Feed Gift Pack. GU Insect Feed Gift Pack. After opening, you can get the designated GU Insect Feed, the feed can only be used to raise GU insects. A GU insect feed gift pack can give 10 copies of GU insect feed. 10 GU worm feed. This has solved my urgent need, Chen Qing said pleasantly in her heart. A GU worm needs to eat 2 servings of GU worm feed a day. 10 servings of GU worm feed is enough to meet the needs of a GU worm for 5 days. And now he has 10 GU worm feed gift packs, that is, 100 GU worm feed. This is enough for the 4 GU worms in his hand to eat for 25 days. I believe that within these 25 days, it shouldn't be too difficult to find the food for these 4 GU worms, or to sign in and get the GU worm feed gift pack. After reading these things, Chen Qing turned his attention to Ethan and Tony. At this moment, Ethan is helping Tony take off the steel battle suit which weighs almost 700 kilograms. Due to the limited research and development level of this steel battle suit, therefore, its energy is very problematic, and it can only maintain operation for 15 minutes. And once 15 minutes have passed, this heavy steel battle suit that has lost its power is bound to become a huge amounts of drag. Naturally, it was impossible for Tony, and without ability, to continue wearing such a heavy steel battle suit for activities. Do you need help? Seeing Ethan struggling to pull the metal buckle, Chen Qing came over and asked. It would be great if you could help. Basking in the sun, I feel like beef on an iron plate, and my whole body is about to be roasted. It's a pity that there were no sufficient conditions at that time, otherwise I would have to install an air conditioner. Tony mumbled constantly, complaining. Ethan on the side couldn't help laughing. Really? Then I suggest you add a flight device, this big guy is really too bulky. After all, he patted the shell of the steel battle suit, making a bang-bang sound. Even he felt a little miraculous to be able to create such a steel armor with strong combat ability in such a short period of time. I don't know how far Tony can develop this armor in the future. However, he couldn't see that picture anymore. His family is waiting for him in heaven. If he delays for too long, his family will be lonely. And Chen Qing, who came over at this moment, also interjected, it's best to launch the battle suit into the orbit, and drop any equipment directly from the orbit. He remembered that Tony was in Iron Man 2, and there was a satellite named Veronica. It can deliver the parts it needs directly from space. It can even launch a prison-style cage to control the target. Tony's eyes lit up when he heard this. That's a good idea. I remember it. Then, he said with a complaining face, Chen Qing, please help me get off this iron plate, I feel like I'm almost halfway done. Because he has already regarded Chen Qing and Ethan as his best friends. Tony's behavior has also become a lot more casual. Otherwise, with Tony's previous personality, he would definitely not joke around with others like this. Chen Qing, who has a little understanding of Tony's character, naturally knows this. He smiled and walked to Tony's side, gently pinched the connection between Tony's breastplate and back armor, and said, it seems that your armor may need an automatic switch device. Click. The next moment, with Chen Qing's forceful hands, Tony's breastplate and back armor were easily taken off. However, the gazes of Tony and Ethan widened in an instant. Because, the place where Chen Qing tore apart was the side where the breastplate and carapace were connected together. From the disassembled armor, the traces of metal being torn can still be clearly seen. Oh my god, Chen Qing, are you really human? Tony said in a shocked tone. It is so easy to tear metal like paper. He estimated that Chen Qing's strength was at least 1 ton. Is this a value that humans can have? Ethan also widened his eyes, and murmured, God, I can't believe my eyes. After all, he touched the stubble on Tony's armor. The sharp and rough touch told him just how much force this piece of metal had withstood. Ethan can guarantee that before today, he has never seen anyone who can tear metal as a piece of paper. This kind of monster-like power is simply outrageous. I'm afraid that even if Chen Qing wants to tear people in half, it won't be a problem. However, Chen Qing did not feel complacent in the slightest. Instead, he shook his head and said, my little strength is nothing at all. Your Yingzhong country once created a super soldier called Captain America during World War II, and it has no less strength than me now. Chen Qing knows just how deep Marvel's water is. Among other things, Spider-Man's terrifying arm strength of 20 tons is far from what he can contend with now. Definitely, as a GU master, his position is actually similar to that of a magician. The physical requirements are not particularly high. I thought that I might need to unite a group of people to fight future crises together. Chen Qing decided to tell the two the truth about the world. So, he went on to say, what I'm going to say next is also the reason why I came to save you. This world is actually not safe. Tony, who came out of the steel battle suit, flexed his wrist and complained, I definitely know that this world is full of bloody wars everywhere, and it really isn't safe at all. During the words, Tony was full of disgust for war. After seeing the cruelty of war with his own eyes, and seeing the young face beside him who was still talking to him just now, he died in front of him in the next second. Tony felt guilty for being naive. He actually naively thought that the weapons he created could be used to uphold justice and protect others from harm. However, in fact, the sinisterness of the human heart far exceeds his thoughts. Not everyone wants peace. If it weren't for the advanced weapons he created, I'm afraid terrorists like Ten Rings will never be so rampant and powerful. Tony had already made up his mind to close Stark Arms when he got back. Even if he loses more than tens of billions of income every year because of this, the Stark Group's stock market will experience huge amounts of turmoil, and he doesn't hesitate to do so. However, Chen Qing shook his head and said, it's small, the layout is small. Tony, don't just focus on the 1/3 of an acre of land on the Earth. Our enemies don't just originate from the Earth people originally. Tony's eyes widened when he heard this. What? You mean aliens? Ethan also widened his eyes. However, because Tony had already asked his doubts. Therefore, he did not open his mouth. However, although there is no clear evidence that there are alien civilizations in the interstellar. However, both Tony and Ethan believed Chen Qing's words. After all, maybe Chen Qing originally represented something beyond their cognition. Well, human beings are not alone in the universe. There are more races in this universe than ants. And human beings are actually very weak existences in this universe. Chen Qing said slowly. He was considering what he should say. Although I don't know why my appearance didn't attract the attention of that terrifying woman from Ancient One. However, there is no guarantee that after I spoil Tony, that woman will not appear. Chen Qing doesn't have the confidence to face a level godfather who can knock out the soul of a person with a single palm. After deliberating for a while, Chen Qing slowly said, through some special means, I know that the universe is about to face a crisis of huge amounts of, and the director of the family planning office of the universe is going to snap his fingers to wipe out half of the creatures in the universe. Unfortunately, the Earth will also be within the affected range, and the Earth still has what he needs to wipe out half of the creatures in the universe. If there is no accident, he will come to the Earth with a high probability. Tony and Ethan gasped at the same time when they heard this. Tony even exclaimed directly, half of the entire universe. My God, this is too crazy. He didn't doubt the authenticity of Chen Qing's words. After all, he believed that Chen Qing had no reason to deceive himself. It's just that it's too crazy to kill half of the life in the entire universe with a snap of your fingers. Is this really something human can do? Moreover, in Chen Qing's last sentence, the other party was staring at something on the Earth, which made him even more dignified. There is such a terrifying existence on the Earth that is fancy. This is probably a doomsday for the entire Earth. Ethan was even more shocked and speechless. What Chen Qing said sounded to him like the most outrageous science fiction stories. His rationality told him that these were just nonsense and crazy words. However, his rationality told him that it was impossible for Chen Qing to risk his life to save them just to let them listen to such an outrageous story. Seeing that the two did not question his words, Chen Qing continued to call the hot iron. Yes, if we do nothing, no one knows whether he or the person he cares about will appear in this half of the people. I believe you don't want to see such a picture appear. After all, he carefully observed the expressions of Tony and Ethan. Tony seemed to be thinking of Pepper and his uncle who didn't know that he had betrayed him for the time being. His expression became a little stiff. When Ethan heard this, his expression didn't change much except for a little shock. This reminded Chen Qing that in the original drama, Ethan's family was dead, and Ethan himself had no desire to survive. If this matter is not resolved, I'm afraid Ethan will still want to reunite with his family. Fortunately, as a GU master, it is not particularly difficult to solve this matter. He looked at Ethan, and said slowly, in addition, drive. Ethan, I hold a powerful GU worm called Dwoshin Yin-Yang GU in my hand, and a GU worm called Longevity GU. Yin-Yang GU only needs to have something that the opponent has used to revive it, and Longevity GU can allow the user to prolong the life of the user by at least 100 years. Just as Chen Qing finished speaking, the breathing of Ethan and Tony suddenly became heavy. The two rushed to Chen Qing almost at the same time. What price do I have to pay? The two said in unison. The temptation for Tony and Ethan to resurrect their dead relatives and make their relatives live a long life is really too great. Ethan wants to resurrect his family members who were killed by the 10 rings. And Tony wants to resurrect his parents who were assassinated when he was a child. Both of them have relatives who they want to resurrect. Chapter 11. However, after asking this question, Tony and Ethan became decadent again. How can the dead be resurrected? At least, their common sense tells them that death is an irreversible process. Perhaps human power can delay the arrival of death. However, death will eventually come one day. Deadman's resurrection or something, it's too ridiculous. How could such a thing happen? Tony shook his head and said disappointedly. Ethan was also a little depressed. Although Chen Qing seemed miraculous to him, he still didn't think that Chen Qing could revive the dead. Your field of vision is too small, but there are many existences in this universe that you cannot understand. As far as I know, there are at least 3 ways to resurrect people. Chen Qing is not surprised by the distrust between the two. After all, the Marvel Universe is too outrageous. However, Chen Qing didn't intend to talk more about this issue. The methods he wants to mention are nothing more than the 6 gemstones Infinity Gauntlet, the 5 creation gods, and higher-level existences. However, if the plot of the 6 gems Infinity Gauntlet is mentioned in advance, it is likely to interfere with Marvel's normal storyline, and there is a high probability that it will attract the Ancient One Magician. Then, Ancient One Magician directly committed the crime of disrupting the future, and slapped him to the soul astral. As for the 5 creation gods and higher beings, let alone. The 5 creation gods are all multi-universe existences, so they might know each other as soon as they say their names. As for existences that are higher than the 5 creation gods, there is no need to say more. So, dogs in the Marvel world don't come here. It's true that there are dangers everywhere. Even he, the system owner, has to be a man with his tail between his legs. Chen Qing couldn't help complaining in her heart. Neither Tony nor Ethan spoke. They just looked straight at Chen Qing, trying to see the meaning of a joke on Chen Qing's face. But what Chen Qing said was the truth, so naturally she wouldn't show any guilty expression. Chen Qing continued, however, I would like to remind you that the materials for refining Longevity GU and seizing Heaven Yin-Yang GU are very rare, and the refining is extremely difficult, so it is not that easy to refine. Besides, the situation can't get any worse anyway. Why don't you trust me once? If it's true, you and your family can enjoy a family relationship for 100 years or even longer. Chen Qing said the last sentence to Ethan. Ethan was desperate enough to commit suicide and go to heaven to be with his loved ones. Apparently nothing could be worse than it is now. As for Tony, don't make trouble, he is a real winner in life. Not only does it have a supergroup with a market value of more than 100 billion United States dollars. At the same time, there is a Pepper who is devoted to Tony and is even willing to risk his life to collect villain intelligence for Tony. For a winner in life like Tony, the conditions I put forward are just to let the other party realize the dream of having both parents. It was hardly an irresistible temptation. However, the main reason why he said this was to attract Ethan. Tony was incidental at best. However, as far as Tony's character is concerned, if he really knew about the impending crisis, Tony couldn't stand by and watch. After listening to Chen Qing's words, Ethan fell into a deep silence. He began to think about whether he should trust Chen Qing or not. As far as reason is concerned, the knowledge he has learned in the past tells him that there is no resurrection from death in this world. However, his reason told him that this was his last chance to see his family. Because, compared to the resurrection, the so-called heaven is even more illusory. Okay, I am willing to work for you. I hope I can get the result I want. Ethan said firmly. A bright smile suddenly appeared on Chen Qing's face, and then he hugged Ethan's thin shoulders, and said with a smile, "Ha ha ha, don't worry, I will definitely not let you down." Chen Qing, who got a general, looked at Tony with a happy mood and said, "As for Tony, you don't have to work for me anymore. My company with a market value of only a few 100 million dragon coins can't tolerate you, who is worth hundreds of billions of dollars, big boss." If the market value of Tony's Stark company is converted into dragon coin, it will almost catch up with Trillion Group. Chen Qing doesn't have such a thick skin for asking the other party to do things for him. Why is the branch office stronger than the head office? Listening to Chen Qing's words, Tony thought he was rejected, and he seemed a little disappointed. After all, this may be his only hope to see his parents. However, Chen Qing went on to say, "However, I am going to form an organization to recruit all kinds of abilities on the Earth to jointly fight against the threat from aliens." Tony's eyes lit up immediately, and he immediately patted his chest and said, "Brother, the reason you came to save me this time is to pull me into the organization. My brother is planning to form an organization, how could I not join? I agree your invitation." After that, he asked curiously again, "By the way, do I have any super abilities that I don't know about?" Chen Qing smiled slightly, and joked, "Then it's definitely a money ability." Tony's face immediately collapsed. Doesn't that mean that he is not irreplaceable? This is a bit uncomfortable for Tony, who has always claimed to be unique. But jokes are jokes. Chen Qing immediately patted Tony on the shoulder and said with a smile, "Just kidding, what I like is your extraordinary wisdom. If it were you, you would definitely be able to create many technologies that can turn the tide of battle. Whether it is various series of Mark battle suits, or super artificial intelligence JARVIS, or a quantum travel device that can travel to other parallel time and space, but they are all powerful technologies created by Tony. If only Tony, a genius scientist and future Iron Man, could join his organization. Then, his organization is more than half successful." When Tony heard this, a proud smile appeared on his face, and he said, "That's definitely, I'm Tony Stark." Then, Tony asked again, "Since there is an organization, it must have a name, right? What's the name of our organization?" The name of the organization. Chen Qing pondered for a while, and then said, "Let's call it the Scarlet Great Wall." The Scarlet Great Wall. Tony's eyes lit up immediately. Good name. Tony is naturally very clear about what the Great Wall is. That is one of the 8 wonders of the earth. At the same time, it is also a symbol of Dragon Kingdom's unyielding fighting spirit against foreign enemies. The name of the organization today is named after the Great Wall, which obviously implies the unyielding spirit of the organization in the face of powerful enemies in the future. In addition, just by looking at the word bloody, one can feel a strong murderous aura rushing towards his face. Obviously, the Scarlet Great Wall organization will bring the heaviest and most ruthless slaughter to the invading enemy. Ethan on the side listened to the conversation between Tony and Chen Qing, and couldn't help feeling excited. He felt that his old body was starting to boil again. After all, this is a struggle to protect the cause of mankind. However, Ethan knew that he was far less intelligent than Tony Stark. Therefore, he didn't have the nerve to propose to Chen Qing that he wanted to join the Scarlet Great Wall. What's more, he will work for Chen Qing in the future. Isn't it also contributing to the Scarlet Great Wall? After a brief rest, Chen Qing took Tony and Ethan to find the off-road vehicle he had hidden nearby. It wasn't until sitting on the seat of the off-road vehicle and watching the scenery on both sides receding rapidly that Tony and Ethan finally relaxed. This terrible day, they finally came to an end. God, when I get back, I'm going to gobble up some cheeseburgers. I haven't had one in ages. Tony slumped himself on the passenger seat of the SUV, moaning. He will never forget the days when he was captured by 10 rings. But fortunately, he finally escaped from that den, and successfully escaped with Ethan. I don't really recommend that you do this. According to our Longguo, people like you who haven't touched meat for a long time should eat some porridge to nourish their stomachs at this time. Chen Qing, who was driving the car, said. Ethan, who was sitting in the back row, nodded in agreement and said, "That's right, based on my life experience, if you eat something like a cheeseburger in this situation, you will most likely have diarrhea." Tony rolled his eyes at the two. Forgive me, I'd rather die in the toilet than drink those tasteless porridge. Speaking of this, Tony stood up and leaned against Chen Qing with great interest. Are you interested in going back to the Eagle Sauce country with me? I plan to treat you well. Let you see Tony Stark's strength. In addition, I'm actually quite curious about the GU worms you mentioned. Tony's words made Chen Qing's heart move slightly. Should he go to the Eagle Sauce country? In fact, he had no intention of doing so. After all, he personally doesn't have a good impression of the Eagle Sauce country. However, most of Marvel's plots take place in the Eagle Sauce country. If you go to sign into those special places where the plot will happen, will it affect the quality of the things you sign in? Chen Qing is very curious about this problem and plans to try it. In addition, he might rely on Tony's strength to help him find the materials needed to refine GU worms. With Tony's social status, it is definitely easier to collect these things than Shen Yuxi. Okay, I just want to ask you to help me collect some special plants and ores. Chen Qing drove the car, easily avoiding a stone, and said with a smile. No problem, Tony will help you with these little things. Tony said confidently. He wanted these good brothers of his to experience the influence of Tony Stark. Even if his status as the heir of the Stark group is excluded, he is still a top scientist with considerable influence in the world. The three chatted all the way, and soon came to the airport. Because Tony used Chen Qing's mobile phone in advance to communicate with Lieutenant Colonel Rhodes. Therefore, just as the three arrived at the airport, Lieutenant Colonel Rhodes had already greeted them. Thank goodness, you're fine. Lieutenant Colonel Rhodes didn't care about the mess on Tony's body, and hugged Tony directly. Come with me in the car next time, okay? Lieutenant Colonel Rhodes patted Tony's shoulder heavily, and said with lingering fear. Almost, his best friend died in this place, Afghanistan. Lieutenant Colonel Rhodes even thought that he would never see his friend again. Don't worry, I'm fine. Tony patted Colonel Rhodes' back. Seeing his good friend again, he was also filled with emotion in his heart. However, it's not in his character to cuddle with big men all the time. After Tony finished speaking, he ruthlessly pushed Lieutenant Colonel Rhodes away, then pointed to Chen Qing and Ethan beside him and introduced, "This is Chen Qing, and this is Ethan, both of whom are my favorites. Good friend, my savior. If it weren't for the two of them, I wouldn't have had the chance to meet you." Lieutenant Colonel Rhodes also set his sights on Chen Qing and Ethan at this moment. Definitely, more of his eyes were on Chen Qing. Lieutenant Colonel Ethan Rhodes is naturally no stranger. As the world's top physicist, Ethan has made great achievements in many aspects. Even if Lieutenant Colonel Rhodes didn't pay much attention to these things, he still knew something about Ethan. However, the strange face of Longguo in front of him made Rhodes' soldiers' intuition subconsciously vigilant. In parallel, from the outside, this man from the Dragon Kingdom named Chen Qing is very good looking. It can even be described as handsome. This is definitely among the people he has ever met in his life. The appearance can be ranked in the top 3. Especially the ice blue moon imprint on the brows of the other party adds a lot of unique charm to the other party. However, Rhodes just felt as if he was sitting next to a poisonous snake, and his muscles subconsciously tensed up. Such a physical reaction told him that the man in front of him, who was so vicious, was definitely very dangerous. However, Rhodes didn't show the slightest expression on the surface. Instead, he extended his hand to Chen Qing with a smile. "Hello, my name is Rhodes, and I am a soldier of the Eagle Sauce country." And Rhodes' reaction naturally couldn't escape the attention of Chen Qing, who had been strengthened by the 10,000 Things transformation GU heavenly art. However, Chen Qing didn't care much about Rhodes' reaction. In other words, as a soldier who has actually been on the battlefield, if Rhodes can't find his abnormality, that is the real big problem. In addition, Rhodes is also one of the few black people he does not hate. At least in the movie, he doesn't hate War Machine with a poisonous tongue. Chen Qing also reached out and held Rhodes' hand. "Hi, my name is Chen Qing, and I'm a Dragon Country businessman. A merchant from the Dragon Country." There was a hint of surprise on Rhodes' face. What kind of Dragon Country merchants will appear in Afghanistan? He really didn't expect that the mysterious Longguo man in front of him would give him such an identity introduction. Just judging from the dangerous aura exuded from the other party is definitely not a simple businessman, okay. But no matter what, this Longguo man named Chen Qing was the one who saved Tony. No matter how curious he was about Chen Qing's identity, for the sake of his good friend's face, he couldn't keep asking. Lieutenant Colonel Rhodes briefly met the three of them. He immediately greeted Tony. "Okay, the military plane has been prepared for you, let's go back quickly." Tony nodded and complained, "When I get back, I'm going to eat several cheeseburgers. God, you have no idea what I've been eating all this time." Rhodes also roughly understood what happened to Tony in Tony's previous complaints. In this regard, he can only return a sympathetic look. Being kidnapped by a group of terrorists, and being able to return with complete parts, this is something to be thankful for no matter how you look at it. By the way, let me tell you one thing. The group of terrorists named 10 Rings who kidnapped you before have been completely wiped out. Do you want to watch the video? While talking, Rhodes took a tablet from the hand of the subordinate next to him and handed it to Tony, asking, "For the terrorists who dare to kidnap the president of the Stark Group and attack the military convoy of the Eagle Sauce Country, the Eagle Sauce Country will naturally deal the heaviest blow." However, Tony just glanced at the tablet in disgust, then waved his hand and said, "No, that's enough." Although all the terrorists in the 10 Rings camp were wiped out, it really made him breathe a sigh of relief. Those terrorists have nothing to sympathize with either. However, he no longer wanted to see the corpse. He was afraid that he would recall the scene of Chen Qing's attack, those bloody corpses that were directly chopped into 2 pieces. Looking back on it now, he still feels a little panicked. A group of people quickly boarded a military transport plane from the Yingjiang country's military. With the green light all the way through, the military transport plane flew back to Yingjiang country almost in a straight line. But in just 10 or so hours, he has already entered this country known as freedom and democracy. As soon as the rear hatch of the transport plane was opened, Tony, Chen Qing and the others saw Pepper Potts standing below with red eyes. Pepper Potts is a typical image of Western beauty, the whole person looks thin and capable. At the same time, there are many freckles on the face that Westerners regard as a symbol of cuteness. Although Chen Qing didn't like this look very much. But it is undeniable that Pepper Potts is indeed a beauty. "Oh, someone is waiting for you." Chen Qing hooked Tony's shoulder beside him, and said an ancient poem in Chinese with a smile, "Linglong dice in Hongdu, you will never know when you are deeply in love." Then, he said in a deep voice, "Tony, this is a good woman." Throughout the entire Marvel movie, Pepper Potts is the only woman Chen Qing admires the most. It is indeed an enviable thing to have such a woman's liking. It can be said that the love between Pepper and Tony is enough to make people believe in love again. However, Tony obviously didn't understand what Chen Qing meant. He didn't understand what Chen Qing meant in Chinese. Boom, boom, hey, what are you talking about? As Tony walked towards the plane, he lamely imitated Chen Qing's previous pronunciation. However, after getting off the plane and looking at Pepper Potts with red eyes, he added in a low voice, "But it is true that Potts is a good woman. She is my most reliable personal assistant. It is because of Potts' care that his life will not be a mess. Potts is definitely his most trusted person. It can even be said that he is the only person he can trust in the company." Hee. Chen Qing glanced at Tony who didn't understand his feelings strangely. Sunere momentary pleasure, chasing wife crematorium awe. Now this call is just a personal assistant, but in the future it will suffer a lot. However, he thought it was interesting, and he didn't mean to interfere with Tony and Potts' relationship. After all, why should a brother still be single and have to put up with you throwing dog food? At this moment, Tony also walked towards Little Pepper, stood still in front of Little Pepper, and raised his eyebrows. "Your eyes are red, are you crying for the long-lost boss?" A relaxed smile suddenly appeared on Little Pepper's face, and he replied, "It's tears of joy. I hate looking for a job. It's just that there are dark circles on her face and unconcealable fatigue." But it showed that her mood was not as relaxed as she said. However, Tony didn't see this in a daze. Instead, he pursed his lips and said very straightly, "Well, the holiday is over." Chen Qing's scalp felt numb after watching this scene directly. This riding horse is indeed an Iron Man. Even the rectum is made of iron. Such a good atmosphere was completely destroyed. But at this time, Tony said a little bit, "Isn't it easy to win the Little Pepper?" "Oh, I really don't understand the style." Chen Qing couldn't help sighing in a low voice. Ethan, who was standing on the side, looked at Chen Qing with some doubts, and asked, "Boss, what are you talking about?" Chen Qing pointed to Tony's back. "I said he doesn't understand style, what a great opportunity." Ethan looked at Tony, then at Pepper, still confused. "What a good opportunity?" Ethan asked, puzzled. Chen Qing tilted his head to look at Ethan. After a while, he quietly asked, "How did you catch up with your wife?" When he heard about the experience of himself and his wife, Ethan immediately looked a little proud and said, "My wife was definitely impressed by my charm and talent. Then she took the initiative to pursue me." Chen Qing, "Sure enough, I can't play with you engineers." After finishing speaking, Chen Qing shook his head and walked towards Tony, who was greeting them. Ethan scratched his head in a daze. What happened to their engineering? Due to advance notice. Therefore, the car arranged by Pepper is no longer the four-seater Rolls-Royce Phantom in the original plot. It's an extended Rolls-Royce Phantom. It was enough for Chen Qing and Ethan to sit comfortably inside. At this moment, Tony also introduced Chen Qing and Ethan to Pepper. "This is Chen Qing, a businessman from Dragon Kingdom, and this is Ethan. They are all my saviors. I can stand here alive, but it's all up to them." Then, he patted Pepper on the shoulder sitting next to him and said, "This is my personal assistant, Pepper Potts." Chen Qing and Ethan nodded at Pepper. "Hello." Pepper Potts also looked away from Tony, looking at Ethan and Chen Qing. "Hello." Only now did she see clearly what the two people who came with Tony looked like. When he saw clearly the young face of Long Guo with half-long hair sitting opposite him. Little Pepper was still surprised. The Long Kingdom man named Chen Qing in front of her is definitely the second most beautiful person she has ever met. That kind of temperament full of oriental elegance can easily make people feel good. Especially the blue crescent moon at the center of each other's eyebrows, although it may feel a little strange at first glance. But when it appeared between the eyebrows of such a man, it gave people a strange sense of harmony, as if this mark should appear here naturally. Let the man in front of him add a bit of mystery. I have to say, if she hadn't already had her own heart, it would be hard not to be tempted at this moment. As for Ethan, she was no stranger to him. Tony and Ethan had communicated before in a cutting-edge technology seminar. It's just that I didn't expect that this seemingly gentle and elegant old scholar actually had such a side. However, Pepper is still very grateful for the actions of the two of them. So she smiled and said to Chen Qing and Ethan, "Thank you two for saving my boss, otherwise I'm afraid I have to go to a certain company for an interview now." Chen Qing leaned on the back of the chair and smiled, and said, "Your boss is very tough, even if I don't go to rescue him, he can leave by himself. Although at that time Ethan needs to sacrifice." But at this moment, Tony directly interrupted the conversation between the two, and interjected, "Okay, Happy, it's time for us to set off now." For some reason, seeing the surprise in little Pepper's eyes made him feel a little uncomfortable. Therefore, subconsciously want to interrupt the communication between the two. Happy, who was wearing sunglasses, turned around and asked, "Where are we going, sir?" Little Pepper answered directly, "Go to the hospital." She thinks that Tony, who has just escaped from the terrorists, needs to do a comprehensive physical examination. Even if Tony can't see any injuries on the surface, no one knows the specific condition of Tony's body. However, Tony directly retorted, "No." Pepper looked at Tony incomprehensibly, and asked, "What is it called no?" "You have to go to the hospital." Tony lowered his eyes slightly, and then retorted in an unhappy mood, "No, it's not." Little Pepper turned sideways immediately, and said in a serious tone, "Tony, you have to ask the doctor to check your body." However, Tony was also not to be outdone, looked at Pepper, and said, "I don't have to do anything, I've been imprisoned for so long, and now I just want to do two things." However, before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by Chen Qing directly, "Shut up, you really need to go to the hospital for an examination now, don't forget the injury on your chest." The headlight on Tony's chest was actually a strong magnet, used to absorb the bomb fragments that were inserted into his body and were constantly flowing with the muscles and blood, heading towards the heart. Once the headlight on his chest was taken away, Tony entered the countdown to death. Chen Qing didn't know what Tony was thinking if he didn't go to the hospital for such a serious injury. A big heart is not so big. As for the medical level, It can only be said that the world's top medical level in the past 10 years is already very high. It is nothing more than a question of whether the money given is enough. However, as the head of the Stark Group, would Tony be short of money? Before Tony could speak, Pepper suddenly became anxious. She hurriedly touched Tony's chest, and asked in a panic, "Tony, is your chest hurt? Let me see. Oh, God." But soon, the hard touch under her hand made her completely dumbfounded. Pepper carefully lifted the clothes from Tony's chest. Then, a flashing blue light appeared in front of her eyes. Little Pepper covered her mouth in disbelief, her eyes filled with distress. This strange round glowing object in front of him was simply a hole made in Tony's chest and installed on it. Tony, how much it hurt. Even Chen Qing, who was watching from the side, felt his scalp tingling. It's also the first time he's actually seen this thing on Tony's chest. Moreover, he remembered that in the subsequent plot, there was also the plot of Little Pepper inserting his whole hand into this hole. As far as the depth of Little Pepper's hand penetrated, it seemed that it almost pierced Tony's chest. Stuffing such a big thing in, will it really not squeeze the internal organs? It seemed that he also had to prepare GU worms for healing in advance. He didn't want to let himself fall into the same fate as Tony one day. "I said I'm fine. With this device, I don't have to worry about my life being in danger anymore." Tony joked a little unashamedly. After some tossing, Tony was sent to the hospital by Pepper. Definitely, this is also due to Chen Qing being escorted by the side. Under the sheer force, Tony's resistance was insignificant. Chen Qing didn't want himself, the first member of the Scarlet Great Wall, to risk his life with such serious injuries. No one is sure if everything will really develop as shown in the movie. What if Tony accidentally sent shrapnel into his heart during a high-intensity fight? However, during the hospital examination, Pepper still asked Happy to buy a cheeseburger, otherwise Tony would really not cooperate. Sitting in the exclusive VIP rest area of the hospital, Tony said to Little Pepper beside him, "Help me hold a press conference later, I have something to announce." Pepper glanced at Tony, not really curious about Tony's plans. "After all, my boss is notoriously out of tune, and no one knows what he will do in the next second." Out of concern, Little Pepper asked, "What is it, can I know?" Tony shrugged, and said with long eyes, "It's not something important, but I want to close the weapon factory." Little Pepper, that's an annual profit of at least 7 or 8 billion US dollars, and it's actually shut down. But this will cause the Stark Group's stock market to plummet, right? Little Pepper asked with some concern. "Well, if you are optimistic, it will probably drop by about 40 points. Stark nodded indifferently and replied, 40 points. You also know at least 40 points. Regarding her boss's waywardness, Xiaojiali doesn't know what to say at this moment. That would be a loss of more than 30 billion United States dollars. It's okay, it's just 40 points, it's not a big deal, I can earn it back soon with my wisdom." Tony leaned back in his chair and said confidently. But at this moment, Chen Qing's faint voice came from the side. "Then, Mr. Tony, you are going to lose money anyway, so do you suggest that I short your stocks?" As soon as Chen Qing's words came out, the expressions of everyone in the lounge immediately became exciting. Tony was surprised, looking at Chen Qing with puzzled eyes, as if he was judging the authenticity of Chen Qing's words. The corner of Ethan's mouth twitched, and he held his forehead helplessly. Can this kind of thing be said in front of the parties involved? My boss's EQ seems to be inferior to his. And Little Pepper's eyes widened in shock, staring at Chen Qing closely. It seems that he wants to see why the man in front of him has such a thick skin. However, Chen Qing remained extremely calm regarding the strange gazes of the three of them. Make money, don't be shabby. Playing GU worms requires a lot of financial resources. If he doesn't have money, how can he wait for the sign-in to accumulate slowly? I'm afraid it wasn't until Thanos came, he was not as strong as the average Avengers member. After a while, after Tony made sure that Chen Qing wasn't joking, he shrugged and said, "Instead of being so troublesome, why don't I just give you 10% shares of Stark Industries? My life is worth the price." When the Little Pepper on the side heard this, his eyes suddenly widened. What a prodigal. This is really too prodigal. You know, the current market value of Stark Group can be as high as 130 billion United States dollars. 10% of the shares is 13 billion United States dollars. This is even enough to support a world-class rich man. And Chen Qing, who received Tony's equity gift, can even step into the world's top rich list in one fell swoop. Moreover, the value of the shares of Stark Group will only become higher and higher because of the existence of Tony, a genius inventor. It can be said that this is a hen that lays golden eggs. No matter if this share is given to anyone in the world, it is probably enough to make the other party ecstatic. However, although Xiaojiao felt that this move was extremely crazy, she still stood aside and watched silently without saying a word. Because, as Tony said, Tony Stark's life is worth the price. Thinking of this, she turned her eyes to the man from the Dragon Kingdom. If there is no accident, the face of this man from the Dragon Country should already be full of ecstasy. She was a little curious, what does that extremely handsome face look like with an ecstatic expression? Little Pepper set his sights on Chen Qing. However, it was not a face with an ecstatic expression that caught the eye. Instead, Chen Qing said with a distasteful and contemptuous face, Hey, what do I want your money for? Don't I know how to make money myself? Little Pepper was slightly startled. There are people in this world who are not tempted. You know, as long as Chen Qing nods, he can easily obtain 10% of Stark Group's shares. Thinking of this, Little Pepper couldn't help admiring Chen Qing. It seems that I look down on the world, not everyone is as vulgar as her, immersed in the secular smell of copper. At this moment, Chen Qing suddenly got up and came to Tony's side, and said with a smirk, By the way, Tony, can you hold the press conference later, so that I can have an early preparation time for entering the venue? Pepper. Well, she took back her emotion just now. Sure enough, everyone in this world is running around for money. We are all laymen, although Tony didn't know why Chen Qing made such an unnecessary move. However, he would naturally not have any opinion if he just postponed the time of some press conferences. It just so happened that he could also take a good rest. So he nodded, and said very face-saving, It's not a big problem, go home with me and rest for a while, and tell me when you are ready. Although Chen Qing is making money from the Stark Group's stock losses. But Tony didn't care much about it. With his ingenuity, it is actually very simple to make money. Just making a small invention at random is enough to bring him a lot of USD. Besides, the Stark Group's loss of money is the Stark Group's loss of money, so what does it have to do with him, Tony Stark? Anyway, his Tony Stark personal assets will not have much impact. Thank you. Chen Qing patted Tony on the shoulder. Then she walked to the side with her mobile phone and directly dialed Shen Yuexi's number. At the same time, Shen Yuexi on the other end of the phone was worrying about the future of the company. Companies are being targeted by a big invisible hand these days. First of all, those suppliers would rather pay a huge amount of compensation than choose to breach the contract and cut off their company's supply. Even those former partners abandoned them one after another and chose other companies. Then, those key employees of the company were poached to quit. If she didn't know that someone was targeting her, then her past 10 years would have been for nothing. It's just that Shen Yuexi couldn't figure out who exactly wanted to punish her company to death. If it continues like this, within half a year, the company will inevitably go bankrupt, and she will have no face to meet Uncle Ant, who has high hopes for her. Oh, who the hell could it be? Shen Yuexi rubbed her sore temples and sighed. To some extent, the shopping mall is not much easier than the battlefield, and it is even a battlefield without gunpowder. Here, every company is equivalent to a country. And which country wants to do something to you, there is no warning at all. Moreover, what worries Shen Yuexi even more is that those suppliers and partners can be kept so tight-lipped. That is definitely an existence that is at least one size bigger than the company she works for. Just when Shen Yuexi was worried, the mobile phone that was placed aside suddenly rang. Shen Yuexi glanced at her phone, and found that it was Chen Qing, who had been missing for more than half a month and had never contacted her. While feeling relieved in her heart, Shen Yuexi picked up the phone and said yin and yang directly, Hey, isn't this our young Master Chen? Are you not left in Afghanistan? If you don't answer calls or text messages, they are already preparing for your funeral. Chen Qing, who was dissed suddenly, was a little dazed. However, he quickly thought of the reason why Shen Yuexi was like this. According to the relationship between the original owner of the body and Shen Yuexi, the two can definitely be regarded as siblings. My younger brother went to such a dangerous place suddenly, and there was no news for more than half a month. Everyone should be angry. However, Chen Qing didn't really want to get entangled in this aspect. Shen Yuexi may be related to the original owner of the body. However, the relationship with him was limited to one communication, and he had no time to waste on such trivial matters. My trip to Afghanistan has a purpose, and now my purpose has been achieved. Now is the time for us to harvest, and I need you to cooperate with me with all your strength. Chen Qing simply explained to Shen Yuexi. As for whether the other party believes it or not, it has nothing to do with him. He remembered that in the memory of the original owner, Shen Yuexi was a woman who knew her position very well. Although in charge of the company's power, Shen Yuexi has always regarded herself as an agent, and Chen Qing has the ability to withdraw power at any time. Therefore, Chen Qing was not worried that Shen Yuexi would oppose his opinion. And Shen Yuexi on the other end of the phone asked after a brief silence, "Can I ask what you did?" Chen Qing chuckled, and said, "It's just to save Tony Stark, and get the latest information from him, enough for us to make a lot of money." Shen Yuexi on the other end of the phone. After a long time, Shen Yuexi said quietly, "The idea is very good, I think I can invest in making a web drama." Although it was indeed reported that Tony Stark's convoy was attacked by terrorists, Tony Stark himself was also missing. However, she has always been treated as entertainment news. Who is Tony Stark? That's the equals baby pimple of the Eagle Sauce Army, the #1 supplier of top-notch weapons. The weapons of Stark military industry are well known even in the whole world. How could Yingjiang country lose this kind of person in their hands? Eagle Sauce country don't want to lose face. As for what my otaku master said that he went to Afghanistan and saved Tony Stark. Shen Yuexi purely fantasized about being an otaku. I'm afraid that my young master got the information about Tony Stark's disappearance from somewhere. Then I made up such a story of a hero saving a man. Sure enough, the end point of the second dimension is the second illness. My young master is seriously ill, right? Chen Qing. It seems that Shen Yuexi doesn't believe his words. But it is really hard for ordinary people to believe this kind of thing. In order for Shen Yuexi to help him with his affairs with peace of mind, don't make any fools to delay the progress. Chen Qing hung up the phone directly, walked to Tony who was beside him, put his arms around Tony's shoulders, and said, "Tony, come and take a photo with me." Although Tony is a little confused, but it is still very cooperative than a pair of scissor hands. Click. With a soft sound, Chen Qing, who squinted his eyes and smiled, and Tony, who was a bit scruffy, were printed on the photo with their shoulders crossed. "Thank you." After taking the photo, Chen Qing let go of the toolman's shoulders and walked to the corner again. Tony, who was left in a daze, stared blankly at Chen Qing's leaving back. After a while, Tony rubbed his chin and said narcissistically, "Could it be that Chen Qing wants to show off to his friends? Is he standing with the talented Tony Stark, Pepper and Ethan on the side?" And Chen Qing here sent Shen Yuexi's personal prestige directly through prestige after getting the group photo. With this photo, Shen Yuexi should be able to believe that what he said is true. Looking at the kitten portrait on Shen Yuexi's personal prestige, Chen Qing murmured in his heart. On the other side, Shen Yuexi, who was suddenly hung up on the phone, originally thought that the little boy was angry when his lies were exposed. He put the phone aside and prepared to continue working. Think about how to get your company through the immediate crisis. But at this moment, her personal mobile phone in the drawer suddenly beeped. Shen Yuexi glanced at the drawer. Did someone send a message to her personal prestige? Not many people know her private WeChat, except for a few good girlfriends. It seems that there are only little boys. You can't say it with your mouth, you want to convince me with words. Shen Yuexi raised her eyebrows slightly, recalling the past. When Chen Qing was a child, his mouth was relatively clumsy, and he couldn't make a fart for a long time. However, once she changed to a mobile phone, the situation was completely different. At least her evaluation was that it would be a pity not to be a pianist. Shen Yuexi took out her personal mobile phone from the drawer. Since it was not unlocked, she could only see that what the little boy sent her was a picture. Is this something you want to use to convince me? Could it be a photo with Tony Stark? Shen Yuexi said with a chuckle. The little boy must have discovered something. After all, Chen Qing has been smart since he was a child, but he just doesn't like business matters. She even suspected that Chen Qing's trip to Afghanistan was to find Tony Stark, make friends with the richest man, and relieve the company's pressure. However, this idea is really too naive. Where is Tony Stark so easy to find? Even if you do find it, why should others make friends with you? At least according to the news she got, Tony Stark is definitely not a person who is easy to communicate with. On the contrary, the other party is an existence of extreme ego. However, Shen Yuexi still clicked on WeChat. She wanted to see what this boy Chen Qing sent over, just to relieve her depressed mood. However, when he saw the photo of Chen Qing and Tony Stark in Weixin's chat bar, Shen Yuexi froze instantly. Her first reaction was that it was from PS. After all, he is the richest man in the world, one of the arms giants in the Yingjiang country, an existence that normal people can't even climb. However, at this moment Tony was making a gesture of scissors with a smile on his face, and Chen Qing was holding his shoulders. No matter how you look at it, the relationship between the two is very close. At least it is absolutely impossible for ordinary friends to take pictures like this. However, when she observed carefully, even after zooming in on the photo, she still didn't find anything unusual. Hiss, this can't be true, can it? Single quote. This crazy idea could not help but arise in Shen Yuexi's heart. She hurriedly sent the photo to a girlfriend who specializes in photography, and at the same time tremblingly typed, "Help me see if this photo has been PS." If all this is true, then Chen Qing will definitely be of great help this time. The super rich man like Tony Stark just plucked the root hair from his thigh. It is enough to raise a company like theirs to several levels. It doesn't even take Tony Stark to do anything. It only needs to reveal that Chen Qing and Tony Stark are friends, and it is enough to completely dissipate the crisis we are facing at this moment. And at this moment, Chen Qing sent an even more shocking news that made Shen Yuexi almost fall to the ground. Can you believe it now? If you believe it, go and use all the company's assets as leverage now, and we are going to short the shares of Stark Group. Short the Stark Corporation, Shen Yuexi exclaimed directly. Even if all the company's assets are mortgaged and leveraged by the securities firm, it can only borrow about 6 or 7 billion at most. However, this is just dragon coins. If converted into USD, the 6 or 7 billion dragon coins can only be exchanged for less than 1 billion USD at most. Using 1 billion USD to short someone else's 100 billion United States dollars supergroup, isn't this purely giving money to others? Etc. Shen Yuexi thought of a terrifying possibility. Chen Qing didn't go to Afghanistan to kidnap Tony Stark, did he? The time when Chen Qing went to Afghanistan seems to be about the same time as the time when Tony Stark disappeared. Her otaku brother still has this ability. Hiss, it's hard to say. After all, the two haven't seen each other for more than half a year. On weekdays, Chen Qing is also mysterious and secretive. Maybe Baoqi really has this ability. After all, Chen Qing was smart since he was a child. Thinking of this, Shen Yuexi suddenly felt her scalp tingling. If it was really as she imagined, then there might not be a place for their siblings on the entire Earth. The Stark Group will never let them go. Shen Yuexi immediately typed and asked, "Chen Qing, you always tell me that you kidnapped Tony Stark, right?" Besides, she couldn't think of the second possibility. After all, if Chen Qing and Tony Stark were friends, might they want to short their friend's company? On the other side, Chen Qing, who saw Shen Yuexi's reply, directly asked questions. What the hell is kidnapping? How could Shen Yuexi miss him so much? Chen Qing typed and replied with black lines all over her head. No, I rescued Tony from a group of terrorists, and I'm in eagle sauce now. Moreover, I just heard from Tony that he plans to close the Stark military industry. It is estimated that if it goes well, we can earn at least 3 or 4 billion USD. In addition, I have asked Tony to postpone the press conference. Please complete what I said as soon as possible. Although there is a little delay, there will be no objection from Tony's side. However, Chen Qing doesn't want to procrastinate and waste too much time for others. And at this moment, Shen Yuexi here also vaguely understood what Chen Qing meant. However, she still couldn't understand why Tony Stark chose to close the Stark military industry. You know, Stark military industry can bring Tony Stark more than 15 billion United States dollars in revenue every year. That is definitely an astronomical sum for the current environment in 2010. It is even comparable to the market capitalization of those bottom-ranked companies among the top 10 top companies in Shanglong Kingdom. If Chen Qing's news is true, then they can indeed make at least 3 or 4 billion USD from it. Even if she gets it right and knows the exact time of Tony Stark's press release, she could make over 4 billion USD out of it. This kind of huge amounts of income made Shen Yuexi, a strong woman, tremble a little at the moment. Not knowing whether it was to reassure herself, or to vent the tension in her heart, Shen Yuexi murmured viciously in a low voice, "Anyway, the company is about to lose its hold, so it's better to give it one last go. Chen Qing, don't fool you my sister. If you dare to cheat me, I will definitely smash your ass like I did when I was a child." After all, Shen Yuexi directly picked up her work mobile phone and started to contact the banking department. No matter what, she and the company had no way out. The timely appearance of Chen Qing undoubtedly gave her a brand new straw. Although I don't know whether the straw Chen Qing handed her will sink as soon as she grabs it. But at least for now, Shen Yuexi couldn't find a second straw for her to grasp. After some phone conversations, Shen Yuexi relied on his own face to finally estimate the company's price at 1.42 billion dragon coins. However, if the 1.42 billion dragon coins are converted into USD, there will only be 160 million United States dollars left. However, Shen Yuexi did not stop her operations. Instead, he immediately used the company with a valuation of 160 million United States dollars as collateral, and borrowed 1.074 billion United States dollars from the bank. Afterwards, she went directly to a brokerage and used the highest 8-fold leverage she could use, and used the 1.074 billion United States dollars to purchase 8.592 billion United States dollars in Stark Group shares. Then, decisively sold all the Stark Group shares worth 8.592 billion United States dollars. Because the stock of Stark Group has been very stable, so there is no need to worry that no one will take up these stocks. However, in just 5 or 6 hours, all the 8.592 billion United States dollars shares that Shen Yuexi sold were sold out. Definitely, the consequence of doing this is that people from the bank, brokerage, and a large number of Yamen servants are all gathered in Shen Yuexi's company. I was afraid that Shen Yuexi would abscond with this huge sum of money, or transfer the huge sum of money secretly. Under the strict monitoring of so many departments, it is impossible for Shen Yuexi to do anything unnecessary. The movement on Shen Yuexi's side also attracted the attention of other companies in Zhongcheng. With the energy of these people, it is naturally not difficult to find out what Shen Yuexi has done. Everyone is a 1,000-year-old fox, so it's impossible to tell what Shen Yuexi wants to do. Tisk tisk, shorting the Stark Group. How bold. It's so bad that Grandma doesn't even know her. What is the size of the Stark Group, and what is her size? Do you still expect the stock of the Stark Group to plummet? Ha ha ha, this woman sometimes misses too. At this moment, Shen Yuexi directly became the laughingstock of the entire Zhongcheng, and even the entire Dragon Kingdom. Everyone is laughing that Shen Yuexi doesn't know the sky is high and the earth is thick. He dared to operate the Stark Group. So what if he cashed out such a huge sum of 8.592 billion United States dollars? Under the joint monitoring of so many departments, can it still be spent? Only the group of people who aimed at Shen Yuexi's company before and wanted to annex it were a little frustrated. They seriously suspected that Shen Yuexi, a crazy woman, was having a final carnival, with the purpose of defeating their plan. It can be said that at this moment, the entire Dragon Kingdom is mocking Shen Yuexi's decision. They thought Shen Yuexi's actions were completely crazy. Moreover, don't think that as long as you return the money back the same way, you can live in peace. Among them, the various handling fees alone are an astronomical sum. Even Shen Yuexi, who had done everything, felt that she was crazy. How crazy is she to actually try to short Stark Group stock? 5 minutes later, Shen Yuexi hugged her knees and squatted in the corner. Her whole body seemed to lose color. Ta 1/2 T, am I a pig? How can I believe this kind of thing? Uncle Aunt, I'm sorry for you. Huge amounts of pressure still made Shen Yuexi collapse. At this moment, she felt uncomfortable everywhere. You know, the biggest business she has ever decided on before is only 320 million dragon coins. However, after some operations, she has cashed out 8.592 billion United States dollars in the whole set, which is equivalent to 76 billion dragon coins. Just one operation, the handling fees and taxes of changing hands several times are as high as hundreds of millions of dragon coins. Beep. At this time, the private mobile phone beside him suddenly rang. Shen Yuexi quickly picked up her phone and looked it up. Unfortunately, Chen Qing did not reply to the message. After Chen Qing sent a message 5 minutes ago, she couldn't be contacted anymore, and she didn't know what the ancestor was doing. 90% of Shen Yuexi's current pressure is due to Chen Qing. The message was sent by her best friend who had asked her to verify the authenticity of the photo. This made Shen Yuexi nervous again. After all, if the photo sent by Chen Qing is really PS, that also means that this time Stark Group's stock price will plummet and it will also be a joke. But no matter what, the result must be faced after all. Shen Yuexi clicked on the phone. The lines of text on it were just messages from her best friend in a hurry. Whist grass, Xiao Shishi, who is this handsome in the photo? Introduce me. And he's hooked up with Tony Stark, he looks like a rich man. This proper son-in-law of the Golden Tortoise. Ah, this person is too handsome, this photo doesn't even show his beauty. This face value is too good, I declare that he will be my male god in the future. And the crescent moon on the brow really pokes my XP too much. No more. Where are people, say, you don't want to monopolize this male god, do you? It will shorten my life, hey. Her best friend is still sending messages on Didi constantly. However, Shen Yuexi breathed a sigh of relief. If the photo is real, it means that the source of the news is also probably true. This is undoubtedly the best news for her now. However, my best friend is not someone who has never seen a handsome guy. My best friend has met Chen Qing several times before, but she has never seen her behave like this. With curiosity, Shen Yuexi dragged Weixin to the top, and clicked on the photo of Chen Qing and Tony Stark. Before that, she focused all her attention on Tony Stark, but she really didn't notice the change in Chen Qing. And soon, Shen Yuexi saw Chen Qing's appearance at the moment. It's different from Tony Stark, who is wearing scissorhands and has a somewhat confused smile. Chen Qing's expression looked very deserted. Half-length black hair was simply tied into a ponytail. The hair that was not tied too tightly, with strands hanging down, looked a little more lazy. And on the white jade-like forehead, an icy blue crescent was imprinted in the center, adding a bit of mystery to Chen Qing's appearance. Obviously, the facial features were basically the same as those she had seen before. But under the combination of this series of conditions, Shen Yuexi felt that Chen Qing's appearance had at least improved several levels. Moreover, Chen Qing's skin is not a little too much. Shen Yuexi feels that Chen Qing's skin is much stronger than that of a person who takes care of herself regularly. This stinky boy, is he still doing maintenance secretly? It's rolled up, right? Shen Yuexi touched Chen Qing on the photo, and murmured. At this moment, her mood has stabilized a lot. Now that the photo has been proved to be real, she has some confidence in her heart, she believes that Chen Qing will not let her down. On the other side, Chen Qing, who received Shen Yuexi's message, turned his attention to Tony, who was eating a cheeseburger, and said, "My side is ready." Tony Stark really likes the Eagle cheeseburger. After returning from the hospital, Chen Qing saw that Tony had eaten at least 6 cheeseburgers. Even the lunch was cheeseburger, which made Chen Qing speechless. Anyway, Chen Qing couldn't stand this way of eating. Well, let's get started. Tony glanced over at Pepper, who was sitting next to him, eating spaghetti gracefully. Little Pepper immediately said knowingly, "I have notified those reporters in advance, and I will call them over now." Pepper's work efficiency is still reliable and reassuring. Okay, Tony nodded, but didn't say anything else. Chen Qing watched this scene with envy. Extraordinary, who doesn't want a partner who can turn himself into a waste? It only takes one look to understand what you want, it is simply the most intimate partner. The group quickly finished their lunch, then got into the car and rushed towards the Stark Group headquarters. The location of the press conference was chosen here. When Chen Qing and the others rushed to the scene, the place was already full of reporters, and these reporters almost included all the top media in the world. For Tony's return after his disappearance, the whole world is obviously very concerned. However, Tony's uncle, Obadiah Stein, one of the shareholders of Stark Group, seemed a little unhappy. Obadiah came to Tony's side, and said with a bit of displeasure in his tone, "Tony, why didn't you tell me when you came back? It made me worry about you for a long time." Tony glanced at Obadiah, squinted his eyes and pulled the corners of his mouth, and said with a smirk, "Really, maybe I forgot." He already knew from Chen Qing's mouth that the reason why he was in danger this time was all planned by his uncle. However, Tony still relented to the uncle who grew up with him since he was a child. He wanted to give his uncle one last chance. Ignoring Obadiah, Tony walked straight to the podium. Then he sat directly under the podium, took out a cheeseburger from his pocket, and said while unpacking, "Can everyone sit down? This way you can all see me, and I can be less formal like this." The reporters present all looked at each other in blank dismay. It was the first time they saw such a request from the interviewee. However, the reporters all sat down according to Tony's words. No one wanted to offend the young billionaire in front of him. At this moment, Lieutenant Colonel Rhodes, who was standing aside, saw such a scene. He also squatted beside Xiaojiao and Chen Qing, who had already sat down, and asked in a low voice, "Why did it become a hippie party?" Little Pepper smiled slightly, shook his head and replied, "Don't ask me, I don't know what he wants to do." Although Rhodes is Tony's good friend in the military. However, Pepper was not prepared to reveal Tony's intentions before Tony revealed his plan. As for Chen Qing and Ethan, there was nothing to say. Moreover, they are also looking forward to seeing the performance of everyone when Tony speaks his mind. Definitely, Chen Qing is also waiting for the signed CD to turn around. I don't know if he can get better rewards for signing in on such a famous scene. After all, according to his previous guess, going to those important places to sign in an open may get better rewards. At this moment, Tony took a bite of the cheeseburger in his hand and said, "I failed to say goodbye to my father." As he said that, he put down the cheeseburger in his hand, straightened his face to make himself look more serious, and then said, "I have some questions I want to ask him. I want to ask him what he thinks of the company's actions, whether there was a struggle, a doubt, maybe he was exactly the man in the newsreel." Having said that, Tony fell silent, recalling the father in his mind. The reporters in the audience also fell silent, waiting for Tony's next words. They faintly felt that there might be a big news coming out next. After recovering his mood, Tony went on to say, "I saw the young Yingjiang people were killed, and it was the weapons I made to protect them that killed them." As soon as these words came out, the expression of Obadiah, who was squatting aside, suddenly became gloomy. Because those weapons were sold to those terrorists by him. It seemed that he had to deal with Tony Stark as soon as possible. Otherwise, with the other party's ingenuity, sooner or later, suspicions will come to him. He didn't think that with his social status, he could get a peerless genius like Tony Stark. And because of Chen Qing's reminder in advance, Tony also caught a glimpse of Obadiah's ugly face from the corner of his eye, and he said to himself in his heart, "Don't let me down. Obadiah, uncle." Single quote. Tony turned his gaze back, and then said to the reporters in front of him, "I also see that I have become a member of a system that does not want to take responsibility." The reporters below were in an uproar when they heard this sentence. The reporter sitting at the very front raised his hand and shouted softly, "Mr. Stark." "Ben." Tony looked at the reporter, clicked on the reporter's name, and motioned for the reporter to ask. The reporter immediately asked curiously, "What did you experience there?" Tony was silent for a moment, then stood up, and walked over to the rear podium while talking. "I opened my eyes, and I realized that I can do more for the world than just create explosions." When he walked to the podium, he said with a serious face, "Therefore, as the CEO of Stark Group, I announce that the weapons production department of Stark Group will take effect until I decide on the future development direction of the company." After finishing speaking, Tony walked directly in the direction where Chen Qing and Little Pepper were. In fact, Tony originally wanted to add that it will follow the future interests of the country. However, on the way back, After seeing the evil deeds left by the Eagle Sauce Kingdom in Afghanistan and the threat from aliens in the future, Tony decided to take his words back. What he needs to protect is not just his own country. At the same time, there is the planet standing under his feet at the moment, and the various residents on this planet. As soon as these remarks were made, the reporters directly exploded. They all stood up and asked Tony why he had such a crazy idea. However, Tony obviously didn't want to entangle with them, but quickly left the venue with Chen Qing and Xiaojiao, and went to his office. Seeing that everything had become a foregone conclusion, Obadiah was so angry that he wanted to kill Tony. However, at this moment, he could only lick his smiling face, and said as much as possible, "What we should remember is that Tony Stark is back. And he is very healthy. We will conduct an internal discussion and then report to everyone." He didn't know how much damage his actions could recover. But Obadiah can already imagine a blood-red stock. Thinking of the little money that he was about to fly away, his heart was bleeding. At this moment, Chen Qing has also completed his check-in. He was very satisfied with the rewards he received for signing in this time. "Ding, congratulations, you have completed the sign-in, and you have been rewarded with 15 years of Taoism, Immortal King Ji-Yu, Biddy Ji-Yu." The sign-in rewards this time are almost second only to the novice gift pack and the rewards obtained by signing in at the 10 Rings camp. Apart from those 15 years of Taoism, Immortal King Ji-Yu Ding and Biddy Ji-Yu are excellent things. Immortal King Ji-Yu Ding. Level. Rank 1 Ji-Yu Treasure Upgrade Progress 0/100. Ability. After the Immortal King Ji-Yu Ding is released, it can greatly increase the recovery speed, physical strength, and injury recovery speed of itself and the cast target, and the Immortal King Ji-Yu Ding can be used to refine Ji-Yu insects of the same level. After the Immortal King Ji-Yu Ding, the refined Ji-Yu worms have a certain probability of being promoted to a higher level. Upgrade Tier 2 Ji-Yu Treasure Requirements. Taiching Stone X30, Jinyang Stone X30, 10 years Poisonous Bug Essence Blood X10. Upgrade can only be done after the upgrade progress reaches the full level. Sacrifice Requirements. 1 drop of natal essence blood is needed for warming and nourishing every day, and 1 drop of natal essence blood can increase the progress of the upgrade by 1 point. Butterfly Ji-Yu. Level. Rank 1 Ji-Yu Worm. Ability. Healing Ji-Yu. Its own phosphorus powder can greatly increase the speed of wound healing. If you directly choose to sacrifice Biddy Ji-Yu, you can greatly recover your own injuries and a small amount of your own true energy. Advanced Rank 2 Ji-Yu Insect Requirements. Nuanyang Grass X1, Tianxin Grass X1, 10-year Poisonous Insect X1. Feeding Requirements. Daily consumption of Warm Sun Grass Nectar X2. There are Immortal King Ji-Yu Ding and Biddy Ji-Yu in hand. Chen Qing also has the recovery ability. Although I don't know the specific effects of Immortal King Ji-Yu Ding and Biddy Ji-Yu. However, when the two are superimposed, no matter how you think about it, it won't be too weak. Moreover, if he directly sacrificed the Jade Butterfly Ji-Yu, he could instantly recover a large mouthful of blood and a small amount of true energy. If this is in a crisis, it will definitely be a life-saving thing. It seems that my guess is correct. If you sign in on some occasions in the plot, you will get better rewards. Chen Qing murmured in her heart. In this case, he will have many places to check in. The Iron Man one that happened in 2010. The Green Titan one that happened in 2011. And Iron Man 2, Thor one that happened in the same year. There are so many places to check in. Maybe before the plot of Avengers 1 comes, I can have extremely powerful power by signing in. After the press conference, Tony brought Chen Qing and Ethan to his office. However, at this moment Tony's face looked very ugly. He leaned back on the seat weakly, his eyes were full of exhaustion and bloodshot. "You know, my uncle has been with me since my father and mother passed away. He can be said to have completely replaced my father's position, only." Tony's voice choked up, and he continued, "It's just that I didn't expect him to make such a decision." Chen Qing and Ethan sat on the sofa beside them without speaking. All are adults, and all are men. Therefore, they knew very well that what Tony needed at the moment was not comfort, but just someone to confide in. Tony then rambled on about his past with Obadiah. However, along with his own memories, Tony also felt more and more things were wrong, and his face gradually became serious. "No, it seems that after I fully grasped the Stark Group, my uncle became even more strange. Are power and wealth really that important? Tony leaned back in his chair and murmured. The corner of Chen Qing's mouth twitched, and he complained unceremoniously, "You who have enjoyed the benefits of power and wealth are the least qualified to say such a thing. It is precisely because you have enough rights and wealth, you can say shut down the Stark Weapon R&D department, just shut down the Weapon R&D department." This one speaking group, coupled with the fact that Tony never listened to persuasion in the past, was extremely egotistical. Chen Qing was not surprised that Obadiah would kill Tony by means. After all, Obadiah himself is obviously a shareholder, but he is as humble as a dog in front of Tony, and he doesn't even have the right to speak. No one can stand it. Anyway, if it was him, even if he didn't get rid of Tony, he would definitely go out and start a new one. Ah, is that so? But every decision I make, doesn't the company make more money? Why is he still not satisfied? Tony said with a puzzled face. The corner of Chen Qing's mouth twitched. This time he was not in the mood to continue answering Tony's doubts. For a person who has almost stood on top of the world since he was a child, how can he understand the desire for power and wealth of the people below? What's more, it's a person like Obadiah who is no longer short of money and is starting to look up to power. Chen Qing raised his hand and summoned the green butterfly GU. Suddenly, a huge butterfly with the size of a full palm, like a colorful crystal, appeared on his fingertips. The eyes of Tony and Ethan were instantly attracted by the sudden appearance of the butterfly GU. My God, is this magic? Where did a butterfly this big come from? Tony exclaimed and ran over directly. The depressed mood of Obadiah's betrayal was directly left behind by him at this moment. Ethan was also not much better. The skinny little old man squatted directly beside Chen Qing, carefully observing the huge butterfly on Chen Qing's finger. Is this the GU worm you mentioned, boss? Is this thing really alive? Ethan pushed his glasses, not to miss any detail of the butterfly in front of him. In addition to the wings like colorful crystals, the body of this big butterfly is also crystal clear. Even the belly of file size with full fingers seems to be able to see the internal structure. In the situation of not moving at this moment, Ethan really couldn't tell whether this thing was dead or alive. This is called Biddy GU, and it's a kind of GU insect used for healing. Chen Qing glanced at the small wounds on Ethan and Tony, and replied. Then, he directly injected his true energy into the body of the butterfly GU, and controlled the butterfly GU to fly around the heads of Ethan and Tony. Under the action of true Qi, countless colorful phosphorus powders fanned down from the wings of the Biddy GU, and landed on the bodies of Ethan and Tony with shocked expressions. Tony and Ethan, two people who just escaped from the tiger's mouth, are definitely the best experimental subjects for the effect of the green butterfly GU. Ethan and Tony watched the colorful phosphor powder fall, and instinctively raised their hands to cover their eyes. However, they also knew that Chen Qing would not harm themselves. Therefore, Tony and Ethan did not choose to hide, but let the phosphorus powder fall on themselves. Soon, they felt that with the falling of these colorful phosphor powders, a slight tingling feeling as if they had been shocked by an electric shock came from the place where the phosphor powders fell. At the same time, these tingling sensations, as if being shocked by electricity, were still under their flesh, constantly rushing towards their wounds. Oh, my God, what's going on? Feeling that the wound was itching, Tony hurriedly pulled off his clothes. I saw that the fine and small wounds on his body that would take at least half a month to heal now started to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a moment, the wounds on his body had completely recovered. If it weren't for the skin color of the newly grown flesh at the wound, it would be quite different from the surrounding skin. It was not even possible to see that there had been an injury here. This astonishing scene made Tony and Ethan's eyes widen. Tony and Ethan looked at the location of Tony's wound before, and then at Chen Qing. Then, both of them swallowed, and said in a difficult tone, is this the legendary GU worm? What level of GU worm is this? Chen Qing nodded, and replied, well, this is just the lowest rank 1 GU worm, and as far as I know, GU worm light is the highest rank 9. The effect of the green butterfly GU made Chen Qing very satisfied. Although it may not be able to achieve the perverted self-healing speed like Deadpool and Wolverine. However, it is also much stronger than the average superhero. At least a genetic warrior like Captain America cannot achieve this recovery speed. Hey, this is just the lowest rank 1 GU worm. Tony and Ethan's eyes widened suddenly, and their hearts were filled with shock. If only a rank 1 GU worm is already so powerful, how strong must a rank 9 GU worm be? Ethan, who was always nervous, was greatly encouraged at this moment. With the powerful abilities displayed by these GU insects, it seems that it is not impossible to resurrect his wife and children. Chen Cheng, can I study your jade butterfly GU? No, just give me some phosphorus powder from its wings. If this thing can be mass-produced, it will be of great benefit to the injured and sick around the world. If the results of the research come out, we will directly establish a medical company, and you will have 7 shares in the company. No, you will have 9 and I will have 1. Tony said with burning eyes. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.